Imagine being unemployed, stressed out, and totally broke. Ham Ariam's life was already a disaster, but she just made the biggest mistake of her life. She woke up with nothing but tangled sheets between her and her childhood best friend. Baek Byung is the only guy she trusts. He's a massive, muscular pro athlete, and he is staring at her like a predator looking at his next meal. Ariam has zero memory of what happened last night, but Byung isn't letting her run away. He traps her against the pillows, furrows his brows, and whispers, "You saw everything. Now, you have to take responsibility for me. The safe childhood friend is gone, and the tiger has just woken up. This is the tiger next door." Ham Ariam thinks back to her childhood, recalling a long-held unease that made her feel guarded around men. But a memory surfaces where her childhood friend, Baek Byung, was the exception. As boys call for him to join a soccer game, he hesitates, mentioning his academy schedule. Ariam recalls that even though he could be annoying, he was never frightening. Suddenly, Byung makes a decision. "Fine, just one game," he says, tossing his backpack to Ariam and telling her to watch it. He sprints onto the field as the other kids erupt in cheers, confident they'll win with him on their team. A younger Ariam stands there, annoyed by his command. The scene shifts to middle school, where girls swoon as they watch Byung play. A soccer ball soars through the air after a powerful kick, and even then, Ariam looks on with a uniquely flustered expression. Byung wipes sweat from his face after scoring a perfect goal, his friend cheering that he's simply too talented. While the other girls watch, completely captivated, Ariam remembers feeling something else entirely, a sense of apprehension. He seems so different on the field, so intense. The memory dissolves into the warm light of morning. Ariam's eyes snap open to an unbelievable sight. Baek Byung sleeps peacefully right beside her. Her heart hammers in her chest as one panicked question screams through her mind. Why are they sharing the same bed? The morning sun streams into the apartment as Ham Ariam's eyes flutter open. Her breath catches in her throat. She finds herself tangled in the sheets with Baek Byung, who sleeps peacefully beside her, his muscular arm wrapped around her. Her mind screams, asking what this situation is. A jolt of pure panic shoots through her as she sees his hand resting intimately on her side. A silent shriek builds inside her as she frantically wonders if anything significant happened last night. As Byung murmurs softly in his sleep, she desperately tries to crawl off the bed. With a clumsy thud, Ham Ariam falls out of the bed and onto a pile of discarded clothes. Her heart hammers against her ribs as she stumbles through the messy apartment, her mind a complete blank. A wave of panic washes over her. Something must have occurred between them. Later, dressed in a sharp suit for a job interview, she forces a polite smile as the recruiter speaks. But his words are just noise. Her thoughts are completely consumed by a single, vivid image from the morning. Baek Byung, sleeping peacefully right next to her. Night falls. On the apartment stairs, Ham Ariam collapses in tears. "I'm finished," she sobs, reading another job rejection on her phone. She wonders why nothing ever works out, convinced she would have passed the interview if not for the incident. Intrusive memories of Baek Byung flash in her mind, and she shakes her arms wildly to banish them. Suddenly, a calm voice asks what she's doing. She yelps, crying out that he startled her. Baek Byung looks up, unfazed, retorting that she startled him, too. Baek Byung calmly questions her reaction, wondering how he couldn't be startled by someone shouting on a dim staircase. He dismisses her drama with a sharp sound, telling her to cut the nonsense and go home. Without another word, he turns and heads up the stairs. As Ham Ariam follows, her gaze falls upon his broad, powerful shoulders. The sight stops her in her tracks. A wave of heat rushes to her face as an unwanted memory of the morning flashes through her mind. He glances back, noticing her sudden halt. Baek Byung stops and leans closer, his gaze sharp. "What's up with you?" he asks, noting how she avoids his eyes, her lips trembling. To Ham Ariam, his shadow on the wall isn't a ghost, but a predator, and her heart pounds with a dreadful certainty. She braces herself, sure he's about to bring up their night together. But instead, he simply asks, "Did you have dinner yet?" The wave of relief is so intense it makes her giddy. She quickly replies before using the chance to escape, scurrying towards her apartment door. Her fingers tremble over the keypad, fumbling the code in her haste to escape. Just as she's about to try again, Baek Byung's voice stops her cold. "Ham Ariam," he says, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Can we talk?" The scene shifts. They now sit across from each other in a warmly lit restaurant, a lavish meal untouched before her. He takes her jacket to put it away and gently reminds her that she hasn't eaten. Still flustered, Ariam insists she's not hungry. His expression hardens. With quiet finality, Baek Byomyong declares that if she won't eat, he won't either. Ham Ariam watches Baek Byomyong, recognizing the familiar set of his jaw. His lips are pressed into a thin, stubborn line. It's a look she knows all too well, one she can never win against. Defeated, she sighs and picks up her chopsticks, relenting as always. Her mind flashes through his incredible career, a national star, an Olympic gold medalist, a legend who gave it all up to return home. The official reason he gave to the press was simple. He missed Korean food. It seems unbelievable, but as she takes a bite, her eyes light up with pure delight. The food is amazing. The tension from before melts away as Ham Ariam takes another bite, her expression softening with genuine enjoyment. She muses that this is the best food in the neighborhood, wondering if his passion for eating was the real reason he brought her here. The mood is light, comfortable, but as she reaches for another piece, Baek Byomyong's voice cuts through the ease. He asks why she left that morning. Her smile vanishes instantly. Her hand freezes, the food falling from her chopsticks with a soft clatter. His eyes are steady on hers as he clarifies his question, his voice low and serious, asking why she just disappeared after the night they spent together. Baek Byomyong's gaze is steady as he asks why she left so abruptly after the night they shared. Ham Ariam's eyes widen in confusion. She sputters, demanding to know what he's talking about, insisting that never happened. Unfazed, he calmly reminds her of the specific day, last Friday, after her failed magazine interview. He then leans back, his expression unreadable, and adds that it was the day he experienced his first real moment with her. Heat rushes to Ham Ariam's face. She points a trembling finger across the table, telling him to stop joking, her voice rising as she insists nothing happened. Baek Byomyong leans back with a confident smirk, asking if she is absolutely sure. Flustered, Ham Ariam admits she doesn't remember, which only fuels his argument. He questions how she can be so certain if her memory is a blank. Cornered, she fires back that he didn't contact her either, yelling that she was busy. Suddenly, her expression changes. "Busy, huh?" she says, her voice low. She closes the distance between them, her hand gently cupping his face. A blush creeps up his neck as she touches his ear. "Your ears always turn red when you lie." Baek Byomyong's face warms under her touch, but he insists he remembers. "Oh, really?" she challenges, confident she has him caught. Suddenly, he catches her wrist, his grip firm. The playful mood shatters. He leans closer, his voice low and intense. "How can you be so sure when you saw me?" An image of his bare shoulders flashes in Ham Ariam's mind, making her heart skip. Mortified, she stammers that she saw nothing. His voice rises with intensity. "You absolutely saw me. Take responsibility." Ham Ariam freezes, speechless and cornered. The quiet night settles over the apartment building. Alone in her room, Ham Ariam thrashes on her bed, kicking her feet. Baek Byomyong is infuriating. She wonders how he can demand she take responsibility for something so absurd. She buries her face into the bedding, groaning in frustration. She can't even argue because her memory of that day is a complete blank. A soft, warm image flashes through her mind. Baek Byomyong's gentle gaze, his voice insisting he remembers everything. She sits bolt upright. She needs to remember. He said it was the day she got rejected by Y Magazine. A notification sound chimes in her memory, and the words of the rejection text flash before her eyes. That day, the day she got that awful message. The memory of that night sharpens. Stung by the rejection from Y Magazine, Ham Ariam remembers drinking far more than usual. She recalls the shock of seeing the empty cans on her table and the impulsive need for more. A voice of reason warned her that Baek Byomyong would be home any minute, but she ignored it, breaking her piggy bank and happily heading out the door. Back in the present, the weight of that memory crashes down on her. She collapses onto her bed, clutching her head. She ran into him looking like that. "I'm doomed." The morning quiet breaks as a woman's voice calls out. It's Ham Ariam's mother, standing at her bedroom door, insisting she come and eat. Startled awake, Ariam sits bolt upright, sunlight streaming over her. The realization hits her in a flash. Baek Byomyong must be here. She quickly throws a sweatshirt on over her pajamas and rushes out into the living room, calling his name affectionately. There he is, sharing a warm smile with his father, who has just returned from a trip excitedly mentioning a gift he brought back just for Byomyeong. Ham Aryam watches them for a moment, her expression unreadable, before she turns to slip away unnoticed. Her father's voice stops her, calling out that Baek Byomyeong is here and asking where she is going. Instead of answering, she pivots, grabs a towel, and marches over to him. She drapes it over his damp hair and begins to dry it with gentle force, telling him he'll catch a cold. He leans into her touch, his voice muffled from beneath the fabric as he murmurs that he's hungry, completely at ease in her care. A faint blush spreads across Ham Aryam's cheeks as she towels his hair dry. The easy intimacy feels both comfortable and dangerous, a frightening reminder of their old habits. Snapping out of her daze, she pulls away, telling him to finish it himself before playfully yanking her sweatshirt over his head. Later, at the breakfast table, her mother fawns over Baek Byomyeong, promising to cook his favorite meals to help his recovery. Aryam watches from the side, comically ignored as Baek Byomyeong charms her mother, even offering to help clean up. As her mother gushes over what a fine boy he is, Ham Aryam tries to slip away to her room. Baek Byomyeong swiftly catches the hood of her sweatshirt, playfully pulling her back. He insists she at least stay and watch him do the dishes. Trapped, she sits and watches his broad back at the sink, the sight making her chest feel tight. After finishing, he leans over her shoulder from behind, his presence enveloping her in warmth. He murmurs into her space, "They are happy now?" The sudden closeness sends a jolt through her. Baek Byomyeong's arm suddenly hooks around Ham Aryam's neck, pulling her back with a jolt. Her eyes widen in shock as he announces to her mother that he's just borrowing her for a bit. From the living room, her mother cheerfully agrees, completely ignoring Aryam's frantic protests to be let go. While her parents laugh at the television, Baek Byomyeong simply lifts a flailing Aryam off her feet. He carries her toward the door as she screams internally at her mother for being so incredibly unfair. Under the starry night sky, Ham Aryam struggles against Baek Byomyeong's firm grip on her wrist, demanding he let her go. "I'm fine. I'll walk on my own," she insists, her voice strained. Unconvinced, he ignores her protest and leads her to his apartment. He presses the code into the digital lock, and the door clicks open, revealing a pristine, silent hallway. He steps inside, and she follows hesitantly, her eyes scanning the familiar space. A wave of unease washes over her as she thinks how cold and empty his place always feels. Suddenly, Baek Byomyeong spins around, his gaze intense. "So," he asks, breaking the silence, "did you remember anything?" Ham Aryam puffs her cheeks out, a nervous laugh escaping her. "No memories at all," she insists, trying to sound cheerful. "Not a single one." Unfazed, Baek Byomyeong simply shakes his head. "If you don't remember, why should I be the one to carry the burden?" she demands, throwing her hands up in frustration. He calmly states that she can handle alcohol better, a reason that only makes her more agitated. The tension shifts as they sit on the couch. He quietly admits he only intends to be with someone he plans to marry. A spark ignites between them as she whispers, "Same here." He suddenly leans in close, his presence overwhelming her. "Seriously, nothing happened," she exclaims, her voice cracking under his intense gaze. Baek Byomyeong's patience wears thin. "Just remember properly, then I'll believe you," he challenges. Flustered, Ham Aryam insists she is trying, but he cuts through her excuses. "Come here." He takes her hand, his grip firm as he pulls her from the couch and leads her down the hall into his bedroom. He gestures toward the perfectly made bed. "If you really wanted to try," he declares, "you should have come to the scene of the incident." She stares, bewildered. He sits on the edge, patting the empty space beside him. "Something was lost here," he says, his gaze locking with hers. "Our memories." A horrifying thought strikes Ham Aryam as she pictures her clothes scattered around the apartment. Did they actually spend the night together? Her mind scrambles for any other explanation, and she resolves to deny everything, no matter what. She anxiously brings a hand to her mouth, biting her nails. Suddenly, Baek Byomyeong catches her wrist. "Stop biting your nails," he says, his voice low but firm. "I told you you'd leave marks." He gently pulls her hand down, holding it between both of his. She stares up at him, surprised by the unexpected tenderness. A jolt runs through Ham Aryam. Something just flickered in her mind, a memory just out of reach. Baek Byomyeong leans in, his proximity sending a wave of heat through her. "I remembered something," he says, his voice low and serious. Her heart hammers against her ribs. "What? What is it?" His gaze is direct, pinning her in place. "That day, I kissed you." The confession hangs in the air, stunning her. "No way," she blurts out, completely flustered. "Why would I kiss you?" He simply watches her panic. A hot blush creeps up Ham Ariam's neck. She demands to know where this supposed kiss happened, trying to poke a hole in his story. Baek Byomyong looks up from the edge of the bed, a faint color rising in his own cheeks. He says he doesn't remember clearly, but he thinks she was the one who approached him right there. The accusation sends a jolt through her. "Are you crazy?" she shouts, crossing her arms defensively. Her mind spirals into a panic. As she grabs her hair, overwhelmed, his voice calmly instructs her to lie on the bed. With a sudden tug, Baek Byomyong pulls Ham Ariam down onto the bed, and she lands directly on top of him. Her mind goes completely blank from the shock. "What are you trying to do?" he asks, a faint blush creeping up his neck. She panics, pushing against his chest. "What am I doing? What are you doing?" He looks up at her, his voice a low murmur. "What do you think? You wanted me to remember, didn't you?" Trapped by her own request, she closes her eyes and slowly leans in, closing the distance. A soft sound escapes Baek Byomyong's lips as Ham Ariam studies his face, a blush coloring his neck. He is the complete opposite of her type, but a surprising thought surfaces. He looks almost beautiful lying there. Her mind briefly flashes to her old celebrity crush before she pushes the memory away. "How did I kiss you again?" she whispers, leaning closer. Baek Byomyong meets her gaze, the heat between them growing. He tells her it was just like this when their lips met. The air grows still as the small space between them vanishes completely. As Ham Ariam leans in, Baek Byomyong tells her not to bite. She freezes, confused. He clarifies he meant for her not to bite her lips out of nervousness. "Then what am I supposed to do?" she asks, completely flustered as she rests against his chest. His voice is a low murmur, telling her to just keep them relaxed. Hesitantly, she parts her lips. With a soft confirmation, he closes the distance. Their lips meet gently, the air growing thick with heat. He whispers, his eyes still closed. "It's warm." The gentle touch deepens, and Ham Ariam releases a soft sigh as warmth floods her senses. Baek Byomyong pulls her body flush against his hand sliding firmly to the small of her back. She gasps at the sudden intimacy, her mind reeling. His voice is a low murmur, cutting through the haze as he says her name, Ham Ariam. The sound snaps her out of the moment. "Huh," she murmurs, dazed. Suddenly, a vivid image flashes through her mind. Her eyes fly wide open, a hand clapping over her mouth in shock. "No way," she thinks, her heart pounding. Was that the memory from that day? A hazy memory flashes through Ham Ariam's mind. She and Baek Byomyong are impossibly close, his hand tangled in her hair as their lips nearly touch. Another image surfaces, showing them in a moment of vulnerability, his touch warm on her back. Her eyes fly open as she wonders what she's seeing. A sudden heat rushes to her face, and she claps a hand over her mouth in disbelief. Panicked, she realizes it must be a memory from that forgotten night. Overwhelmed, she stumbles backward, but Baek Byomyong reacts instantly, grabbing her arm. "Hey, Ham Ariam," he calls out, stopping her from running away. The sudden pull sends Ham Ariam tumbling forward, collapsing right into Baek Byomyong's embrace. He catches her, his voice laced with concern as he asks why she's panicking. Mortified, her face burns as she presses it into his sweater, her hands clutching the fabric. A wave of heat washes over her. After a tense moment, she shoves herself backward with a hurried apology, but he moves faster. He catches her hands, his grip firm. Leaning in, his gaze locks onto hers as he asks quietly, "You remembered, didn't you?" "No, I didn't." Ham Ariam stammers, desperately denying she recalls anything. Baek Byomyong's grip on her arm tightens, pulling her closer. "It hurts. Why are you doing this?" she protests, but he just leans in, his gaze unwavering. He asks her directly if she remembers initiating their connection that night. The question triggers a flood of hazy, warm memories. An image of their lips nearly touching, her breath catching in her throat. Flashes of a deeper intimacy, of a close embrace in the heat of the moment, overwhelm her senses. Back in the present, her face burns, her eyes blinking rapidly as the undeniable truth settles in. It wasn't just a simple moment. Ham Ariam's mind races with panic. He's already making a big deal out of the contract. If he discovers the full truth about their night, she can't imagine the consequences. She decides she has to hide it, no matter what. In a burst of frantic energy, she rips her hand from his grasp. Baek Byomyeong winces, a faint blush on his cheeks as he quickly apologizes for his tight grip. But her guilt immediately eclipses her fear. "Did it hurt that much?" she asks, tears welling in her eyes as she reaches for his hand. "I'm really sorry. Let me see." She clings to his arm, whimpering softly as the weight of her guilt and the confusing memories press down on her. The scene dissolves. Later, while trying to study at the library, the haze in her mind finally clears. Butterflies of memory flutter around her as she clutches her head, a gasp escaping her lips. "Oh God," she thinks, her face burning. The undeniable truth hits her. She shared an intense, intimate connection with Baek Byomyeong. Her mind floods with their shared past, him clumsily tending to her scrapes, her teasing his bad grades. The boy she's known forever. A whirlwind of childhood memories rushes through Ham Aryam's mind, playing house with Baek Byomyeong, teasing him when he cried. The innocence of the past clashes violently with her present reality. A cold dread washes over her as she bites her finger. "Why did I do it?" she mutters aloud, earning a sharp request for quiet from a nearby librarian. Mortified, she apologizes and flees. Later that evening, Aryam walks home under a deep purple sky. Her mother greets her at the door, telling her to rest. But her expression is sharp with concern. "Aryam," she asks, her voice cutting through the quiet, "did you have a fight with Byomyeong?" "No, we didn't fight," Ham Aryam insists, but her flustered expression tells another story. The sudden ring of the doorbell sends a jolt of panic through her. It must be Baek Byomyeong. In a frantic whisper, she begs her mother to say she's asleep and unwell before scrambling into her room and closing the door. Next door, Baek Byomyeong arrives home, immediately asking for her. When he hears she's not feeling well, his intense gaze softens with concern. He decides to let her rest. Alone in her room, Aryam leans against the door, feeling the heavy silence. Ham Aryam drifts to sleep, trying to convince herself that if she avoids Baek Byomyeong, the whole problem will simply blow over. But her resolve melts away in a hazy dream. A deep, enveloping heat surrounds her, a warmth she recognizes as his. She recalls the feeling of his lips, the undeniable closeness. It's a comfort so intense, she wonders if he's an electric blanket. A voice suddenly cuts through the warmth, calling her name. "Ham Aryam, wake up!" Slowly, her eyes begin to flutter open. Ham Aryam's eyes slowly focus on the face above her. It's Baek Byomyeong. "Time to get up," he says, his voice a calm rumble. She sits up in a sleepy haze, demanding to know why he's in her room. He explains that her mother gave him a mission: wake her up and feed her. Before she can react, he grips her arms and pulls her into a sitting position, the sudden closeness sending a jolt through her. Finding out her mom left, she sighs that everyone leaves her out. His gaze softens, and he quietly hands her a cup of water. A sudden realization washes over Ham Aryam as she stares up at him. She was supposed to be avoiding him today. Baek Byomyeong crosses his arms, his tone shifting to a gentle scolding as he asks why she stays up so late. The words tumble out of her mouth before she can stop them. "I only stayed up because of you," she blurts out. His expression softens with intrigue. "Because of me?" he asks, his voice low. Mortified by her slip, Ham Aryam squeezes her eyes shut, internally screaming at her confession. Baek Byomyeong pats Ham Aryam's shoulder, telling her they should eat first. He gently urges her to wash up and come out. She agrees meekly, but stops in her tracks when she sees the dining table. An incredible feast is spread out before her, far more than anyone would expect for breakfast. "Wow," she breathes out amazed. She wonders aloud what all this is for, so early in the morning. He ignores her question, simply reminding her to wash up. As she rushes to get ready, they finally sit down together, digging into the impressive meal with full cheeks. Ham Aryam closes her eyes in pure delight, completely lost in the meal. "It's absolutely delicious," she declares, marveling at how tender the ribs are. The pleasant atmosphere shatters when Baek Byomyeong says her name, his voice low and serious. "Baek Byomyeong," she replies, meeting his intense gaze. A fierce blush spreads across her face as they stare each other down. "You first," they both insist simultaneously. After a tense pause, Ham Aryam clacks her chopsticks on the table. "Okay, I'll ask first," she says. She leans forward slightly. "How much do you remember?" He simply touches his chin, turning the question back on her. "You?" The standoff shatters as Ham Aryam insists. "You answer first." Baek Byomyeong looks away, accusing her of playing games. Finally, he meets her gaze, his expression serious. He confesses that his memory goes blank right after their lips met. The admission stuns Ham. "Nothing?" she asks, her voice barely a whisper. Overwhelmed, she grips her head in frustration, asking what they should do now. Baek Byomyeong calmly places the burden on her, telling her that she just has to remember. Her frustration peaks before collapsing into quiet desperation. "Do I have to remember?" Baek Byomyeong leans back, his expression calm and serious. He suggests they go get checked out together, adding that he'll tell her parents every single detail. A jolt of pure panic shoots through Ham. He's a man of his word. She has to stop him. "I'll take responsibility for everything," she blurts out. With the meal forgotten, Baek Byomyeong stands. "If you're done eating, get up." Confused, she asks why. A knowing look crosses his face. "You said you have to remember," he states, the words hanging in the air. "We have to try, don't we?" A sudden chill runs through Ham as she steps into the hallway. She shivers, wondering aloud why her house is so cold. Baek Byomyeong calmly reminds her he told her to change. He moves into her bedroom, noting its warmth and explaining he came straight from his workout. Quickly pulling on a hoodie, she confirms she only heated this one room. Her heart thumps with a nervous rhythm. She looks up at him and asks what they are going to do now. His gaze is steady as he gives a simple command: "Follow me." He leads her to the bedroom and points to the bed. "Here, lie down." Ham stares in disbelief, accusing him of being strange. Sitting on the mattress, Baek Byomyeong insists this is all her fault, claiming she was the one who made the first move last time. Overwhelmed with frustration, Ariam suddenly shoves him back onto the bed, hovering directly over him. His face flushes at their sudden closeness. With a determined glint in her eyes, she leans in and commands him to stay still, the air crackling with unspoken intensity. Lying beneath her, Baek Byomyeong's face flushes as he clutches his chest. He asks what she wants from him, feigning terror and questioning if this is really how they must recall their memories. A nervous smile plays on Ariam's lips as she looks down at him. She retorts that he is the one being threatening. He weakly tells her they should stop, but his protest is lost in the moment. In a sudden move, she leans down and cups his face with both hands, holding him still. His eyes go wide, a genuine shock mixing with anticipation. Ariam steels herself, determined to remember. Her thumb gently traces the line of Baek Byomyeong's mouth, the soft touch sending a warmth through him. She leans closer, her voice a low whisper, asking if this is where it all began. A memory flashes, a hazy vision of a passionate embrace, her voice telling him not to pester her. The forgotten night rushes back in fragments, forcing her to confront the burning question of just how far things went between them. She wonders, did I really cross that line with Baek Byomyeong? Baek Byomyeong's gaze is intense. "You remembered something, didn't you?" he asks, his voice low. Facing away, Ariam quickly denies it. Unconvinced, he grabs her arm, demanding she be honest. "Did you remember or not?" She insists she didn't, but her body trembles under his firm grip. "Hey, Ariam," he calls out, frustrated. His frustration melts into shock when he sees tears welling in her eyes. "Why are you crying now?" he asks, completely thrown. With her head bowed, she quietly explains, "Because you grabbed me so hard." His hand releases her instantly. With a blush still dusting his cheeks from the confrontation, Baek Byomyeong looks on in stunned silence. Ariam's frustration boils over. "Are you really going to be like this?" she asks, her voice trembling with indignation. "What did I even do to you?" Before he can answer, she whips a gray shirt off and throws it squarely at his face. Without another word, she turns and sprints down the apartment hallway, her one goal to get away. "Hey, Ariam," he calls out, but she is already gone. Ariam walks down the street, a weary sigh escaping her lips. Avoiding Baek Byomyeong is proving to be an impossible task. This feeling is familiar, reminding her of something that happened long ago. A memory surfaces of a treasured childhood doll named Mimi, whom she considered her soul twin. The nostalgic image is suddenly engulfed in flames. She remembers a younger, devilish Baek Byomyeong, a small lighter in his hand. Before her horrified eyes, he sets Mimi alight, turning her most precious possession to ash with a mischievous spark in his eyes. In the past, a young Baek Byomyeong calls out Ariam's name, his face burning with a panicked blush. He catches up to her, desperately asking if she's been avoiding him because of the doll, swearing it was an accident. He explains he was frozen in shock, unaware the candle would catch her precious Mimi's hair so easily. His memory shows a boy stunned by a fiery mistake, but she only remembers a devilish grin. "I'm serious," he pleads. The memory fades, leaving her with a single, cold thought. She should have cut ties with him back then. Regretting her decision, Ham Ariam spots Baek Byomyong and calls his name, but the word catches in her throat. He's already in a tense conversation, coldly telling a colleague he has nothing to say. Her courage evaporates in an instant. Spinning on her heel, she bolts down the sidewalk in a panicked sprint. His colleague points at the commotion, asking who that was, but Byomyong just shakes his head, not recognizing the frantic figure. Hidden behind a bush, Ariam presses a hand to her chest, her heart hammering. That was way too close. As Baek Byomyong's colleague wonders who the frantic person was, Byomyong's gaze shifts, landing directly on Ham Ariam's hiding spot. Her heart hammers against her ribs. She's been found. He approaches, a teasing glint in his eyes, asking if she really thought he wouldn't see her behind the tree. Flustered, she denies it. His tone softens, and he gently chides her for being outside in the cold without proper shoes. Then his voice lowers. "Did you eat?" he asks. When she quietly admits she hasn't, his invitation to lunch makes a blush rise to her cheeks. A soft blush warms Ham Ariam's cheeks as she agrees to lunch, admitting to herself that she can never say no to him. Their moment is cut short when his colleague walks up, asking if she's Baek Byomyong's girlfriend. She's not, Byomyong answers instantly. The speed of his denial makes Ariam gasp, a confusing sting of hurt piercing her chest. Why does his answer bother her so much? Before she can process the feeling, he suddenly pulls her close, shielding her behind his back as he dismisses his colleague with a firm finality. Baek Byomyong's colleague, Choi Jeongo, leans past him, his curiosity piqued. A friendly grin spreads across his face as his eyes land on the startled Ham Ariam. He introduces himself, his voice cheerful as he tries to draw her into conversation. Completely flustered, Ariam peeks from behind Byomyong's arm, managing only a quiet, mumbled hello. Amused by her shyness, Jeongo's mind races with possibilities. He asks if she's Byomyong's little sister, then quickly guesses she might be a cousin. The innocent questions hang unanswered, tightening the knot of tension in the cold air. Baek Byomyong's voice is sharp as he dismisses his colleague, warning him to get lost and never show up uninvited again. Choi Jeongo protests that they're friends, but the word catches in his throat when he sees the chilling look in Byomyong's eyes. He laughs nervously, immediately backing down and scurrying away with a hasty farewell wave. Staring after him, Ham Ariam asks if the man was really his friend. He's not, Byomyong answers flatly, his gaze fixed ahead. He turns the conversation back to her, simply stating, "You said you were hungry." Ham Ariam fidgets in her slippers, a sudden awkwardness hanging between them that feels entirely new. Baek Byomyong's voice cuts through the quiet, asking what she'll do now. He challenges her directly, wondering if she's just going to run away again. Keeping her gaze down, the bill of her cap hiding her eyes, Ariam quietly says, "No." His expression softens slightly as he looks at her. He suggests they could go to his place to talk properly. She hesitates for a moment before giving a small nod, a faint blush warming her cheeks. "Yeah, all right," she agrees. Baek Byomyong leads Ham Ariam into his modern apartment. Following him inside, she nervously fidgets with her cap and quietly asks if a week has already passed. Soon, they sit opposite each other at a dining table, the silence stretching between them. Byomyong simply stares at her, a faint, unreadable smile on his lips. His intense gaze makes a warmth rise in Ariam's cheeks. She wonders why he's looking at her that way. He's rarely smiled since they got older, and seeing it now feels unnervingly new. It's almost scary. Baek Byomyong finally breaks the silence, asking if Ham Ariam remembers anything about that day. She looks back, confused, before he clarifies. He admits he doesn't remember everything. A light blush dusts his cheeks as he leans forward slightly, his voice low. He tells her he remembered a little from a week ago, when she was hovering over him. Heat rushes to Ariam's face. She stammers, asking just how much he recalled, her hands instinctively crossing over her chest. He continues, explaining it was after their connection deepened. Her eyes widen. A wave of warmth spreads up Byomyong's neck as he touches it, a flustered smile on his face. A faint blush spreads across Baek Byomyong's face as he says he can't reveal anything more. In Ham Ariam's mind, his usual tiger-like intensity melts away, replaced by the image of a shy cat with drooping ears. A thought flashes through her mind. He's cute. Byomyong leans forward, his expression suddenly serious. He accuses her of remembering everything too, insisting that's why she ran away. She denies it, but his voice turns desperate. He asks if their kiss was so horrible and scary that she had to avoid him, his own cheeks burning with heat. Baek Byomyang's voice is low, laced with insecurity. Is it because I'm not good at kissing? He asks. The question snaps through the tension. Heat explodes across Ham Aryam's face, her eyes flying wide as she blurts out, "You're good at kissing." The instant the words escape, she whirls around, mortified by her slip-up. He immediately catches her contradiction. "You said you didn't remember," he points out. "So how do you know that?" Trapped, she hesitantly admits she recalls up to that point. He presses again, asking if she disliked what happened after. "No," Aryam cries out, completely flustered. Why does the conversation keep going there? Ham Aryam runs a flustered hand through her hair, insisting that his skill doesn't matter. "Then why do you keep avoiding me?" Baek Byomyang asks, his expression earnest. Waving her hands defensively, she insists she wasn't avoiding him, just trying to remember on her own like he asked. She can't bring herself to admit she was trying to forget. The thought of his hurt forces the words back down. "So, did you remember?" He presses, his voice steady. Aryam's breath catches. Well, a sudden, heated memory flashes through her mind. A hazy, purple-tinted image of Baek Byomyang, impossibly close. Squeezing her eyes shut, Ham Aryam insists she just can't remember, no matter how hard she tries. Baek Byomyang's voice is calm and steady. "Then let's try just one more time," he proposes. Her eyes snap open, filled with disbelief. "Try what again?" He stands with his arms crossed, a determined look on his face. He explains that they need to know exactly what happened that night, arguing that running away won't solve anything. His logic corners her. Mortified, Aryam hides her face and whispers a defeated okay. "Then follow me," he says, turning to lead the way. Baek Byomyang leads Ham Aryam into the bedroom, the unspoken destination making her heart pound. As she sits nervously on the edge of the bed, a hazy, heated memory flashes through her mind. The warmth of his breath, the feeling of his touch against her skin. Before she can process the thought, he leans over her, his presence overwhelming. A confident look crosses his face. "This time, I'm taking the lead," he says, his voice low. Aryam stares up, completely bewildered. "Huh?" she whispers. His hand firmly covers hers, pinning it to the bed frame. Baek Byomyang changes his approach. "Ham Aryam, you lie down first," he commands. Confused, she questions him. He explains that if she's the one in control, his mind gets distracted and he can't remember anything. To rush things along, he adds that he's hungry. Defeated, she agrees. Despite feeling like she's being tricked, she knows she has to remember. Ham Aryam cautiously lies back on the bed, her voice a whisper. Like this. In an instant, he moves, positioning himself right behind her, his body a warm, solid presence against her back. Baek Byomyang promises not to touch a single hair, asking her only to stay still. A faint blush dusts Ham Aryam's cheeks as she nervously agrees, sitting perfectly straight on the bed. A subtle smile crosses his face as he leans in close, his presence enveloping her. "I'll lean down a little more," he whispers, his voice low and warm, like last time. As he moves past her, a sudden, heated memory flashes through her mind. Snapping back to the present, she sits frozen on the bed, her eyes wide with shock. Memories again. Her heart thunders in her chest as the ghost of that intimate moment lingers, leaving her stunned. Baek Byomyang hovers over Ham Aryam, trapping her beneath him on the bed. She flinches as he leans closer, her cheeks flushing with heat. The air between them feels heavy, charged with unspoken words. She stares into his intense eyes, frantically wondering what he's thinking. He slowly bites his lower lip, and the simple act sends a jolt through her. It's too much. On pure instinct, her hand flies up, pressing against his mouth to stop him. They freeze, her palm against his lips, both stunned by her sudden boldness. Ham Aryam freezes, realizing her hand moved on its own. But instead of pulling away, Baek Byomyang gently holds her fingers against his lips, a thoughtful look in his eyes. He seems to study the sensation, a flicker of memory crossing his face as he compares the touch to a moment she can't recall. Aryam stares, completely lost by his sudden quiet intensity. Suddenly, his eyes snap wide, and his entire face floods with a deep red color. As if struck by a shocking realization, he abruptly pushes himself away, breaking the spell between them. Ham Aryam watches, utterly confused, as a memory flashes in Baek Byomyong's eyes, a fleeting, gentle touch of lips. Ah, he realizes with sudden clarity. This was the sensation. The air crackles with unspoken heat as his intense gaze meets hers. Before she can process his words, he moves in, closing the space between them in a single, fluid motion. He captures her lips in a soft yet decisive press, sending a jolt through her entire body. In an instant, the world fades away, leaving only this heart-stopping moment. As their lips meet, Baek Byomyong recognizes the sensation. He thinks back to that night, confirming this was the same soft, warm feeling. The connection deepens as he dips her backward, sweeping her off her feet. Her hands instinctively tangle in his dark hair. In a blur, they move from standing to the bed, the soft sheets now beneath her. Ham Aryam's hair fans out around her head as she stares up, her face flushed with a bewildering heat. A question echoes in her mind. Why does this feel so sweet? Baek Byomyong deepens their connection, his touch sending waves of heat through Ham Aryam. Her eyes snap open to the bright light of the present day. Baek Byomyong's hands are on her, and she gasps, startled. Stop, she stammers. Take your hand off. A sudden gasp escapes Ham Aryam as her shirt is pulled away, her skin exposed to the air. A wave of heat rushes to her face. Above her, Baek Byomyong freezes, his own cheeks flushed as he stammers a quick apology. He explains that he can't move, prompting her to realize they didn't go all the way that night either. Hug my neck and get up, he instructs, but she feels powerless. His body tenses as he looks down and asks the stunning question, "But why did you kiss me?" The words leave her utterly speechless. Baek Byomyong's face burns with a deep blush as he insists Ham Aryam touched him first, just like that night. Confused, she reaches out to him, prompting his composure to snap. He questions why she would touch a man's lips with such intensity just because she can't remember. He presses on, his own voice flustered, asking why she then made their connection so deep and intimate. Ham Aryam freezes, utterly speechless. With a bashful glance away, Baek Byomyong admits he did the same thing for the exact same reason, to remember. Baek Byomyong insists that she must take responsibility. He abruptly turns away, his shoulders tense, complaining that his heart and instincts are still reacting to her. A blush creeps up Ham Aryam's cheeks as she demands to know what he means by responsibility. The air crackles with tension as he whips back around to face her. His own face is bright red, his eyes burning with a mix of desperation and resolve. "Date me," he blurts out. Ham Aryam freezes, her world stopping as his demand echoes in the stunned silence. Her mind screams, "What?" The words hang in the air, sharp and unexpected. "Date me," Baek Byomyong insists, his gaze intense. Ham Aryam sits frozen on the bed, staring up at his broad back as he stands with hands on his hips. The world seems to stop as she processes his demand, a confused "what?" escaping her lips. He turns slightly, a crack appearing in his confident front as he asks if she doesn't want to. Aryam's shock slowly melts into dawning realization. Her heart stumbles as she looks at him, a new, critical question forming. "Do you?" she breathes. "Really like me?" A blush spreads across Baek Byomyong's face as he challenges her doubt. Why else would he have done it, he asks, if he didn't have feelings for her? He flips the question, pressing to know if she just let it happen without any feelings of her own. The words hang heavy in the air, leaving Ham Aryam speechless. Her hands clench the sheets as her mind races. Before she can answer, Baek Byomyong turns his back. As he steps away, a sudden panic grips her. "Byomyong, wait," she calls out, impulsively reaching and grabbing his arm. Baek Byomyong freezes, a blush creeping up his neck as Ham Aryam's fingers tighten on his sleeve. "Wait, that's not what I meant," he stammers, surprised by her touch. Her own face is flushed as she looks up, her heart pounding in her chest. "It's not that I dislike you," she confesses. She explains that while not disliking feels close to liking, she's unsure if that feeling is enough. "Can you give me time to think?" she asks. The moment the words are out, she recoils, realizing it was the worst possible way to say it. The air grows heavy as Baek Byomyong gently adjusts Ham Aryam's shirt, his touch sending a jolt through her. She thanks him, blushing furiously and regretting her clumsy words. Suddenly, he closes the distance, his hand resting firmly on her waist. The atmosphere shifts, charged with intensity. He asks if she expects him to just be another option in her lineup. Aryam is stunned, quickly denying it. But he presses on, his voice laced with frustration, demanding to know what she meant if she doesn't want to be with him. Cornered, she can only stammer. Ham Ariam falls silent, her hands twisting the hem of her shirt as she whispers a soft apology. Baek Byomyong tells her to forget his harsh words, but just as the tension breaks, he snatches her wrist, pulling her close. She lets out a small gasp. His expression is resolute as he agrees to be part of her lineup. He leans in, the space between them electric, and lays out his condition. With a low, intense voice, he gives her an ultimatum. She has 1 week to decide if she will date him. In the bustling cafeteria, Ham Ariam picks at her food while a friend sits across from her. The friend mentions that Baek Byomyong has been skipping his morning workouts and suggests Ariam should at least text to see if he's okay. The simple suggestion ignites a flash of frustration in Ariam. She scowls, fuming internally. It's been 5 days since he gave her that 1-week ultimatum, and he hasn't shown his face since. The choice is supposedly hers, yet he acts like a sneaky tiger. Her muttering grows louder, so annoying, causing her friend to glance over, surprised. A familiar voice makes Ham Ariam flinch. An old acquaintance approaches, her smile a little too bright as she questions why Ariam is eating school lunch, assuming she had already landed a great job. A hot flush of annoyance spreads through Ariam. She forces a tight laugh, fabricating a story about choosing not to renew her contract. The acquaintance's reply stings with thinly veiled condescension. Unable to take another moment, Ariam scrapes her chair back and stands abruptly. She has to meet someone, she says, cutting the conversation short and walking away without another glance. With a weary sigh, Ham Ariam walks away, thinking she doesn't want to go home. The acquaintance catches up to her, pointing out her troubled expression and asking if something happened. Ariam forces a tight smile and denies it. The woman assumes Ariam will be at the library and cheerfully says they'll be seeing a lot of each other. Yeah, see you next time, Ariam replies flatly, but under her breath, she adds a dismissive "if we ever do," turning and walking away, leaving the acquaintance looking completely bewildered. As dusk settles over the city, Ham Ariam walks with a heavy heart, her mind racing with anxiety. Only 2 days left, she thinks, feeling lost. Suddenly, a warm, golden memory flashes through her mind. An intimate moment with Baek Byomyong, their faces close. A hot flush spreads across her cheeks, and she presses her hands to her face, completely flustered. She paces back and forth, convinced something is wrong with her brain. Her frantic thoughts are cut short when she spots a familiar man ahead, causing her to stop dead in her tracks. Kwon Yunchan? Ham Ariam recoils, her mind screaming in protest. No way. Why is he here? Panic floods her veins, and she desperately scans the area for a place to hide. The bus stop? No, he might see her. The underground parking lot. It's too far. Before she can make a move, a cheerful voice calls out, Ariam? She freezes in place, caught. Kwon Yunchan approaches with a wide, bright smile, his eyes crinkling with genuine delight. It really is you, Ham Ariam, he exclaims, completely unaware of her inner turmoil. On a quiet street, Ham Ariam freezes as a familiar voice calls her name. It's her former colleague, Deputy Manager Kwon. He approaches with a wide smile, claiming he was just in the neighborhood and that it's good to see her. Ariam's mind immediately calls him a liar. He leans in, suggesting they grab coffee, and she flinches away, visibly uncomfortable. A wave of disgust washes over her as she remembers his past persistence. Even after she quit, he wouldn't leave her alone. Now he's here, having found her home. A chilling memory surfaces in Ham Ariam's mind. She recalls every time she tried to politely decline his advances, apologizing that she had plans. The moment she didn't give him the answer he wanted, his friendly mask would drop. His face would go cold, his eyes turning sharp as he'd demand to know who she was meeting. Back in the present, he takes a determined step toward her, his voice low and insistent. He came all this way just for her. Ariam flinches, taking a fearful step back as she tries to apologize once more. Just as her former senior leans closer, a strong hand darts out, clamping down on his wrist and stopping him cold. Ham Ariam looks up in shock to see Baek Byomyong standing between them, a protective wall. He pulls her behind him, his other hand resting firmly on her shoulder. Her heart hammers against her ribs as she explains that the man is a senior from her old company. Byomyong's eyes, visible over his mask, narrow with anger. "What business do you have with my girlfriend?" he asks, his voice dangerously low. The former senior recoils, his face a mask of disbelief. Playing along, A deep blush spreads across Ham Ariam's cheeks as she explains that Baek Byomyong is her boyfriend and she was just on her way to meet him. Stunned, the man stammers, demanding to know since when. Baek Byomyong's voice cuts through the air, sharp and cold. "What does it matter to you?" he asks, his grip tightening protectively on her shoulder. The former senior flinches, visibly trembling under the weight of Baek Byomyong's intimidating gaze. Baek Byomyong gently turns Ham Ariam to face him, his hand cupping her cheek as he leans in close. His voice is low and sweet as he tells her to go inside first, promising he'll finish up and join her. Stunned into compliance, she nods. He presses a soft kiss to her forehead, causing her cheeks to burn even brighter. She reminds him to hurry before their soup gets cold. With a final, affectionate pat on her head, he smiles. "Just wait a bit." He then turns back, his smile gone. Ham Ariam rushes into the building, her footsteps echoing in the quiet lobby as she hurries to the elevator. Her hand trembles slightly as she presses the button, desperate for the doors to open. The moment they do, she doesn't step inside. Instead, all the tension drains from her body, and she sinks to the floor, crouching as she hides her burning face in her hands. A long, shuddering sigh of relief escapes her. She finally feels safe, her mind whispering, "Saved." The elevator chimes, waiting patiently for her. Ham Ariam waits by the elevator, convincing herself that Baek Byomyong's intimidating presence was enough to scare the other guy away for good. Just as the doors slide shut, a hand darts out, forcing them back open. She flinches, startled, as a tall figure in a blue cap steps inside, his presence immediately filling the small space. Her cheeks flush at their proximity. The elevator begins its ascent in a heavy, awkward silence. His voice finally breaks the tension. "Are you okay?" She looks up, hesitant. "Did he leave?" "Yeah," Baek Byomyong confirms calmly. "I made things clear." A sudden, chilling thought strikes Ham Ariam. This isn't the first time he's been here, is it? Beside her, Baek Byomyong's hand tightens into a fist. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asks, his voice tight with an emotion she can't place. She looks up at him, flustered. "I mean, you were busy," she stammers, explaining he had just changed teams and had enough to deal with. He looks away, his jaw tense. Then, he suddenly ducks his head, his blue cap hiding his expression. "I'm sorry," he says softly. "No, it is my fault." The words hang in the air, leaving Ariam utterly confused. Why would any of this be his fault? Ham Ariam's mind spins with a single, overwhelming question. The elevator doors slide open, and she practically bolts into the hallway, desperate to escape the heavy, charged silence. Her flight is cut short as a strong arm suddenly wraps around her waist, pulling her back against Baek Byomyong's chest with a gentle jolt. "Watch out," he murmurs, his voice low. He asks what the rush is. Completely flustered, Ariam stammers that it's nothing, but he simply asks, "Then what is it?" Baek Byomyong's grip on Ham Ariam's arm is gentle yet firm. "Don't you have something to say to me?" he asks, his voice low and steady. Her cheeks flush as she looks up at him, managing a quiet, "Thank you." He leans in, his gaze unwavering. That's it. When she asks what else there could be, his expression hardens slightly. He reminds her there are only 2 days left on their agreement. He lets the words hang in the air, adding that if she doesn't answer, he'll simply take it as a no. Baek Byomyong's expression turns serious as he tells Ham Ariam that even without an answer, he'll take her silence as a no. Later, he confronts her in the hallway outside their apartments, asking if her plan was to avoid him like this. Ham Ariam quietly denies it. No. In a sudden, swift motion, Baek Byomyong closes the distance, leaning down until his face is just inches from hers. He challenges her simple answer, stating her true intention. "You were never going to see me again." Ham Ariam freezes, her eyes wide with shock. Baek Byomyong turns his back to walk away, but Ham Ariam's frustration boils over. She surges forward, grabbing his arm and spinning him around to face her. "Since when?" she demands, her voice tight with emotion. A blush creeps onto his cheeks as he looks down at her, clarifying the question that hangs between them. "Since when did you start liking me?" Panic flashes in her eyes. Ham Ariam claps a hand over his mouth, silencing him. His words are muffled as his gaze darts around the empty hallway, mortified. He pulls her hand away, hissing, "Are you crazy?" Flustered, Ham Ariam justifies her demanding question, insisting she has a right to know since she has a decision to make. Baek Byomyong smirks, enjoying her reaction. He tells her it works both ways. If she wants an answer, she has to give one. He points out that her chasing him proves his point. She was afraid she'd never see him again. Her face flushes with fury. She pinches his side hard. He yelps, asking if she's trying to get rid of him. Unfazed, Ham Ariam turns and walks away. Suddenly, she spins back, grabs his arm, and starts dragging him with her, leaving a completely bewildered Baek Byomyong in her wake. "Just you wait," Ham Ariam declares, her face burning with defiance as she points back at him. Their heated exchange is abruptly silenced when a neighbor complains about the noise, leaving Baek Byomyong frozen in mortification. The next 2 days pass in a blur of restless worry. Lying awake in her pajamas, Ham Ariam's heart races as his words echo in her mind. She tosses and turns, burying her face in her pillow. The pressure to answer him is maddening, and she groans, realizing she can't even think of a way to get revenge. Drawn out by the sounds of a soccer match, Ham Ariam opens her door and steps into the living room. Her heart leaps when she sees Baek Byomyong sitting comfortably on her couch, completely absorbed in the game. Confused, she asks where her parents are. He casually replies they went out, leaving the two of them alone. As he yells at the screen, Ham Ariam picks up the remote. With a decisive click, the room plunges into silence. She stands before him, her expression a mix of apprehension and resolve as she speaks his name. Baek Byomyong's gaze settles on Ham Ariam, and he points out how exhausted she looks. She just retorts that he doesn't look so great himself before plopping down onto the couch next to him. She insists a week is too short to make her decision, but he dismisses her complaint with a smirk. His expression turns serious, his voice steady. "I only cooperate when I'm dating you," he states, cutting through all her arguments. "So give me an answer." Ham Ariam freezes, utterly speechless as his ultimatum hangs in the tense air between them. Ham Ariam hesitates, a blush creeping up her cheeks as she struggles to find her voice. She looks at Baek Byomyong and finally asks what she means to him. Before she can finish, he leans in close, his gaze intense. He cuts her off, his own voice thick with emotion, asking if dating him is truly so out of the question. The raw vulnerability in his eyes steals her breath. Suddenly, he stands and walks away without another word, his footsteps echoing in the tense quiet. Ham Ariam just watches, stunned, as he pauses at the threshold. As Baek Byomyong turns to leave, a small hand suddenly clutches the back of his shirt, stopping him cold. He looks back in surprise, a faint blush on his cheeks as he asks what she's doing. With her head bowed, her voice wavers as she questions if his feelings are just a passing whim. He says her name softly, a gentle warmth in his tone. He reaches back, trying to pry her fingers loose as he tells her it's okay to let go now. "No," she says, her resolve hardening. She quickly wraps her arms around him from behind, holding on tight. Stunned, he stands perfectly still. "Ham Ariam." Baek Byomyong slowly turns within Ham Ariam's embrace, his expression soft as he gently takes her wrist. His touch sends a jolt through her. Then, "Can I hold your hand?" he asks, his voice a low murmur that makes her heart pound. Her face flushes as he questions if she doesn't want this. She stammers that it's not that she doesn't want to, it's just awkward. His gaze intensifies. "So it's not that you hate me?" he presses, lifting her knuckles to his lips. The feather-light touch shocks her into blurting. "How could I hate you?" The words tumble out of Ham Ariam before she can stop them. I like you too." Baek Byomyong's eyes widen in stunned silence. "What?" he asks, completely caught off guard. Realizing what she said, Ham Ariam panics, waving her hands dismissively. She insists that's not what she meant, rambling that he's always been like a brother to her. His shock melts into a soft, knowing expression. He steps closer, his voice smooth. "Then you keep being the same," he says. "I'll be the one to change." He promises to treat her well, a charming smile gracing his lips. "I'll do whatever you ask." Baek Byomyong closes the distance between them, his voice low and serious. He states that he'll be the one to change. Startled, Ham Ariam looks up at him with wide, questioning eyes as he gently takes her arm. "How?" she whispers. He promises to treat her well, to do whatever she asks. His hand moves to cover hers, his fingers slowly weaving between her own. A warmth spreads through her as his grip tightens, a silent and firm vow. Her breath catches. "Whatever?" she asks, unsure. "Whatever," he confirms, his gaze unwavering. A soft, confident smile spreads across Baek Byomyong's face. The memory sends a wave of heat to Ham Ariam's cheeks as she sits at the table, her decision making all her previous worries feel pointless. She quietly wonders if that means yesterday was their official first day. Her mind flashes back to the sight of his back turning away, the feeling that he was giving up. An instinct took over. She couldn't just let him go like that. Admitting defeat to herself, she realizes he's a man of his word. The doorbell rings, and moments later, Baek Byomyong is standing in the living room. Ham Aryam's mother warmly invites him to join their meal. As he sits, her mother asks Aryam to scoop some rice for him. Aryam pauses, utensils in hand, her mind blanking. Before she can react, Baek Byomyong moves behind her, his hand gently pressing on her shoulder to keep her seated. "It's okay, I'll do it myself," he says, his voice low. "Just finish your meal." Aryam watches, stunned, as he casually gets his own rice. A wave of confusion washes over her. Isn't this exactly the same as always? A blush warms Ham Aryam's cheeks. She's always known him as the fierce tiger next door, but as he moves around her kitchen, a different thought surprises her. He looks cute. The idea makes her heart flutter. As dishes clatter, Baek Byomyong ties an apron around his waist and tells her to stay seated. He insists she just watch him clean up. Flustered, Aryam questions if she should really do nothing. "Yes," he says, his voice steady. "Just watch me." When she finally agrees, a small, satisfied smile touches his lips. With the dishes clean, Baek Byomyong announces he has something for Ham Aryam at his place. He takes her by the wrist, and before she can fully process his words, he calls out to her mother that he's taking her out. Her mom, without looking up, simply tells him he doesn't have to bring her back. Inside his apartment building, the hallway is cold. He leads her into his home and flicks on the lights. "So, what did you want to give me?" she asks again. He turns to face her, the air crackling with sudden tension. "Come here," he says softly, gently taking her hand and lacing his fingers through hers. The unexpected warmth of his touch sends a jolt right to her heart. Baek Byomyong looks at Ham Aryam, his expression serious. "We're dating now, right?" he asks, his voice cutting through the quiet room. The blunt question makes her flinch. A deep blush colors her cheeks as she stammers that was the one who declared they were an item. He leans in closer, his voice dropping. "I will change," he promises, "but I need reassurance too." Confused, she questions what he means. His grip on her hand tightens, a firm, warm pressure. "I want the reassurance that we're really dating," he explains, his gaze unwavering. Utterly bewildered, she asks how she is supposed to do that. His gaze lowers, his voice soft but firm. What he wants from her is simple and direct, for her to kiss him first. The request hits Ham Aryam like a jolt of electricity. A deep blush floods her cheeks as she stammers in disbelief. Baek Byomyong explains that while she confessed, nothing feels different yet. It's still awkward, and he needs this to feel real. Her mind spins with panic, but his expectant silence is unyielding. Taking a shaky breath, she finally concedes. "Fine then," she says, her voice barely a whisper. "I'll do it. Just close your eyes." Baek Byomyong closes his eyes, a faint blush on his cheeks. Ham Aryam's heart hammers against her ribs as she leans forward, her own eyes squeezed shut. Just as she gets close, she peeks and catches a knowing smile playing on his lips. She freezes, mortified. Before she can pull away, his hand cups her jaw, gently guiding her in. Their lips meet, and the soft touch quickly deepens. The warmth spreads through her as he takes the lead, murmuring softly for her to open her mouth a little. The gentle kiss deepens, and a wave of warmth washes over Ham Aryam as Baek Byomyong takes full charge. He presses her backward, and she tumbles softly onto the couch, with him following her down. A soft sound escapes her as his touch moves to her neck, sending shivers through her. Her breath hitches, and her hands instinctively clutch the fabric of his shirt, wrinkling the material. Overwhelmed by the sensation, she feels a powerful rhythm thumping in her chest. Lying beneath him, her eyes are wide as she wonders, "Is my heart really pounding this loud?" The gentle connection deepens, pulling them both under. Baek Byomyong's warmth envelopes Ham Aryam as he presses her down into the soft cushions of the couch. Muffled sounds and soft sighs fill the quiet room. His touch is electric as his hand traces a path up her side, his fingers just brushing the skin beneath her shirt. A shiver runs through her. He pulls away from her lips, his breath hot against her neck as a single, ragged thought flashes through his mind. "I feel like my senses are going crazy." With a sudden thud, Baek Byomyong pins Ham Aryam to the couch, his body trapping hers. He looms over her, the unexpected closeness stealing the air from her lungs. Her amber eyes go wide with panic as she presses a hand against his chest, trying to push him away. It's hard. She manages to gasp, her face flushed. A matching warmth rises in Byomyang's cheeks as he leans closer. He asks what's so hard, wondering if she's scared of him. "What are you talking about?" she retorts. "I said I can't breathe." Baek Byomyang gently pinches Ham Aryam's nose. "Don't breathe through your mouth," he scolds softly, calling her a dummy. A deep blush spreads across her cheeks as she protests that you can't always breathe like that during a kiss. "This is my first time doing any of this with you," she admits, flustered. A subtle warmth fills Byomyang's expression. He leans in again, their bodies trembling with anticipation. This time, he whispers, his voice low and patient. "Try breathing slowly through your nose." Aryam snaps back, insisting she already knew that. "Well, to me, you're the dumb one." Baek Byomyang murmurs, a gentle tease before closing the small space between them. The world fades into warmth as their lips meet. The connection deepens, slow and deliberate, and Ham Aryam melts against him on the couch, her breath catching. He pulls back slightly, his dark eyes searching hers. "Better now?" he asks softly. Flushed and overwhelmed, she leans away, confessing her heart is still pounding. Breathing, she realizes, wasn't the issue. It was too short, she says, flustered. "I still can't breathe properly." "Not enough," Baek Byomyang declares, his hold on Ham Aryam unwavering. Flustered, she tries to reason with him, promising she'll do better next time. His eyes light up. "When's next time?" he presses, standing up to face her. He argues that waiting too long is a bad idea. What if she forgets everything they just did? Aryam promises she won't, but he sets a non-negotiable condition. It must be tomorrow. He crosses his arms, a hint of a pout on his face, explaining he has plans the day after. "What kind of plans?" she asks, a flicker of concern in her eyes. He simply replies, "I've got someone to meet." A flicker of jealousy crosses Ham Aryam's face. "Is it that friend?" she asks, a hazy image of Baek Byomyang with someone else appearing in her mind. He clarifies that the person he's meeting is not just a friend, firmly setting their plans for tomorrow. After she reluctantly agrees, he sits her down. "Now, give me your hand." Confused, she asks why. He reminds her he had something to give her, and she blushes, admitting she thought it was just an excuse. He takes her hand and slips a delicate gold ring with a red heart onto her finger. "It's pretty," he says, his gaze soft. "It really suits you. Don't you dare take it off," Baek Byomyang insists, his gaze serious. "Not even when you shower." He reminds her that she always loses accessories the moment she takes them off. Ham Aryam, her face flushed, quickly agrees to keep the ring on. Later, in a crowded study cafe, she tries to focus on her work, but her eyes keep drifting to her hand. The sparkling heart on her finger is a constant reminder. So it really wasn't a dream, she thinks, a wave of anxiety washing over her as she considers how expensive it looks. Unable to concentrate, she fidgets with the charm. "I'm going crazy." That evening, Ham Aryam's hurried footsteps echo up the stairs to Baek Byomyang's apartment. The electronic lock beeps, and she lets herself inside. He arrives moments later, his own hair damp and skin glowing with heat from his rush. His intense gaze immediately finds her. "Did you run here?" he asks, his voice a low mixture of scolding and concern as he reminds her to dry her hair properly. Catching her breath, Ham Aryam explains that with her parents out for the night, she had nowhere else to go. Baek Byomyang tells her to simply heat up the side dishes his mother sent. When he spots Ham Aryam carrying a heavy box, he immediately takes it from her grasp. "Don't touch things like this in front of me," he warns, his voice firm with concern for her safety. After setting it down, he casually asks what she did all day. Flustered, Aryam claims she studied, but her mind races. She was too consumed by thoughts of him to focus. He turns, a knowing warmth in his eyes. "Didn't you think about me?" The question hangs in the air, sending heat rushing to her cheeks. "Why would I think about you?" she sputters. Baek Byomyang leans in, a playful glint in his eyes. "He spent the whole day playing soccer." He smirks, gesturing to the food. Ham Aryam's cheeks puff out, realizing he's teasing her. The light-hearted moment fades as he suddenly closes the distance between them, his gaze turning serious. "Hey," he murmurs. He isn't hungry yet, he whispers, asking if she is. "Me neither," she stammers, her heart pounding. His voice drops, low and intense. Then, "Can I get what you promised me now?" He gives a slow, deliberate nod. A deep blush spreads across Ham Aryam's face. "Here," she stammers, glancing around the open kitchen. Baek Byomyeong calmly asks where she would prefer. When she objects to the current spot, he suggests her room. Seeing her hesitate, he offers to go to his place instead. Aryam panics, refusing to walk into the tiger's den. And no, let's go to my room. She quickly agrees. His fingers confidently intertwine with hers. Let's go, he says softly, leading her away. The bedroom door clicks shut, leaving them alone in the quiet space. The bedroom door creaks open, revealing Baek Byomyeong standing in the dim light. His face is flushed, a nervous heat rising from his skin as he looks toward Ham Aryam. He reaches out, gently placing a hand on her cheek and tilting her head upwards. Lift up your head, he murmurs. Confused, Aryam looks up into his intense eyes, her own cheeks glowing with a faint blush. Before she can question him, he closes the distance between them. The air crackles with unspoken feelings as their lips meet, a soft and tentative touch that quickly deepens. The gentle touch quickly deepens as Baek Byomyeong pulls Ham Aryam flush against his body. His hand slides down to rest on the small of her back, and a dizzying heat blooms from his touch, clouding her mind. Her cheeks burn with a deep blush as she feels overwhelmed by the sudden intensity. With a small flinch, her eyes widen in surprise. Wait, she murmurs, her protest lost against him. Instead of stopping, he lifts her effortlessly, their connection unbroken as he holds her firmly, closing any remaining distance between them. Baek Byomyeong's hand slides up Ham Aryam's back, his touch sending a jolt through her. A soft sound escapes her as the kiss deepens, their shared breaths growing warmer and more ragged. His fingers trace the delicate edge of her garment, and with a gentle movement, their closeness intensifies. He pulls her even closer, his entire body trembling slightly as he buries his face against her shoulder. Ah, he breathes out, his voice a low whisper thick with emotion. I feel like I'm going crazy. His embrace tightens, overwhelming her senses. A soft whimper escapes Ham Aryam as she pleads, "St. Stop." But her words are lost against his neck as Baek Byomyeong's hands tighten on the fabric of her clothing, his touch both firm and trembling. He holds her even closer, his own breath catching in his throat. A shaky gasp leaves her as their closeness intensifies, the cool air a stark contrast to the heat radiating between them. Baek Byomyeong shudders, his face flushing a deep red as a choked sound escapes him. Overwhelmed, Ham Aryam's body goes limp, and she sinks down against the door. The charged atmosphere breaks. Baek Byomyeong snaps back to reality, his eyes wide with alarm as he sees Ham Aryam trembling, her face a mask of distress. "Hey, are you okay?" he asks, his voice laced with panic. Tears well up in her eyes, her fear instantly boiling over into anger. With a desperate shove, she pushes him back with all her strength. "I told you to stop, you damn beast," she cries out. Thrown completely off balance, Baek Byomyeong stumbles backward and collapses onto the floor, looking up at her in utter shock. Baek Byomyeong covers his face, a deep blush spreading to his ears as he tries to compose himself. "I'm sorry," he murmurs, admitting he must have completely lost his mind. His gaze finds Ham Aryam, who is still sniffling against the door, and the reason for his behavior spills out in a raw whisper. "You're just too beautiful, unbelievably so." He gently cups her cheek, telling her he must have gone crazy. In a bafflingly earnest gesture, he lifts his own shirt. "Here, blow your nose." Her crying stops short. Ham Aryam pushes his shirt away with a firm no. Baek Byomyeong stumbles back, apologizing profusely for being so out of line. But her soft reply stuns him. She admits she was just surprised and asks him to take it a little slower, next time. The words hang in the air. Next time? Baek Byomyeong echoes, his mind blanking as heat floods his face. Aryam confesses her legs have given out. He moves to help her up, their bodies pressing close. As she steadies herself against him, she notices his bright red ears, certain he's lost in the moment again. With his face burning, Baek Byomyeong asks if this is all she thinks about. Ham Aryam quickly denies it, her hands trembling as she fumbles with a delicate strap on her back, unable to secure the clasp. Frustrated, she turns and points directly at him. Since he unhooked it, he must be the one to fix it. "Me?" he stammers, completely stunned. She rushes him, complaining that she's starving now. As she turns her back to him, he swallows hard, his hands hesitantly finding her waist and pulling her close. With his face burning, Baek Byomyeong's fingers secure the clasp. "All done," he murmurs, his hands slowly falling from her waist. As Ham Aryam turns to face him, he stammers an apology, his blush deepening. He confesses it's just that she looks so breathtakingly beautiful. Completely flustered, she asks what he could possibly find so beautiful about her. His gaze turns soft but intense, his voice filled with unwavering conviction. He tells her he means it. To him, she is the most beautiful person in the entire world, leaving her utterly stunned. Ham Ariam's face burns, her mind reeling from his words. To shatter the intense atmosphere, she blurts out, I'm hungry. Stunned for a moment, Baek Byomyong bolts to his feet. Just sit here, he insists. I'll make food right away. As he rushes past, she turns away, completely flustered. Her thoughts race, wondering if he could possibly believe she's the most beautiful woman in the world. Lost in a daze, she touches her own lips, her mind suddenly searching for her lip balm. He couldn't be serious, unless he's blind. The low hum of a hairdryer fills the room as Ham Ariam stands before the mirror. She pauses, her eyes landing on the dark, silent phone on the table. A flash of irritation crosses her face as she wonders who could possibly be keeping him so busy. Suddenly, the sharp beeps of the electronic door lock cut through the quiet. Startled, she quickly pulls a large sweatshirt over her head. Baek Byomyong, she calls out, expecting him. But the person who enters is a complete stranger. A man she doesn't recognize stumbles into the room, his cheeks flushed. He gives her a strange, overly familiar smile and asks, "My dear, you're still awake?" The tense air in the room instantly deflates. The stranger is just her father, stumbling in with a cheerful, flushed face. He coos at Ham Ariam, asking if his little girl was worried because he was late. Her mother scolds him for drinking, but he just beams, proud that Ariam is grown up enough to worry about his health. As her parents begin a familiar, light-hearted argument over the TV remote, Ariam retreats. A faint blush dusts her cheeks as her thoughts drift back to Baek Byomyong. Annoyance bubbles up. If he's going to be late, the least he could do is call. Just then, her phone buzzes, lighting up the dim room. An incoming call appears on the screen. Speaking of the devil, it's him. With a hint of lingering annoyance, Ham Ariam answers the phone. "Hello." Baek Byomyong's voice is calm and direct from the other end. He's right outside her apartment. He asks if she can come down. "Now? What's going on?" She questions, her toes curling into the floor. His next words hang in the air, sending a jolt of electric heat through her. "I want to go out with you." A deep blush floods her cheeks, her heart thumping against her ribs. "All right," she breathes out, her voice suddenly giddy. "Wait for me." Clothes fly as she scrambles to get ready. Ham Ariam's mother, her face covered in a sheet mask, eyes her daughter's hurried preparations. "At this hour?" she asks, her gaze narrowing. "Is it a boy?" A hot blush floods Ariam's cheeks as she fumbles for an excuse, insisting it's just a friend who has something to give her. As she quickly turns to leave, her mother's voice follows her with a warning. "Don't be too long. If anything happens, call Baek Byomyong right away." "Yeah," Ariam calls back, practically fleeing out the door. She rushes into the cool air, her heart pounding under a night sky lit by a bright half-moon. Baek Byomyong waits for her in the cool night air, a dark scarf held in his hands. Ham Ariam hurries toward him, slightly breathless as she apologizes for being late. His brow furrows with concern as he gently cups her cheek, his thumb brushing her skin. He asks why she came out dressed so lightly. Flustered, she admits she hadn't realized how chilly it was. He tenderly wraps the warm scarf around her neck. He takes her hand, their fingers lacing together as they start to walk. "Who did you meet today?" he asks, his voice suddenly low and serious. Ham Ariam tries to deflect his question, vaguely stating it was just an acquaintance. Baek Byomyong's voice is low and firm as he presses for more details, his grip on her hand tightening just enough for her to notice. Flustered, she claims it was a business meeting for an ad that her agent arranged. She buries her face in the warm scarf, cheeks burning. Her mind drifts to an earlier moment when fans had spotted him. He had denied who he was, but his fame was undeniable. Ariam watches his serious profile, her heart thumping. His aura seems different lately, more intense. Ham Ariam's thoughts spiral. As more people recognize Baek Byomyong and more companies want him, a painful question echoes in her mind. Is she good enough for him? The weight of her insecurity makes her stop walking. Suddenly, Baek Byomyong tugs her forward. "Why are you pulling me?" she asks, startled as he leads her to a nearby bench. He sits and pulls her again, drawing her to stand closely before him. His hands settle gently on her waist, his gaze soft as he looks up at her. "Are you cold?" he asks. Flustered by the sudden proximity, she can only manage a little. A knowing smile touches his lips. Baek Byomyong's gaze softens, his voice a low whisper. I want to kiss you right now. A blush spreads across Ham Aryam's face as she accuses him of always thinking indecent things. Her eyes dart around nervously, worried someone will see. No one's watching, he promises. He gently guides her face to his, and the space between them vanishes. He pulls back with a soft smile, his heart thumping. You're so cute, he murmurs, gently touching her face. He tells her she looks like a bunny, leaving her completely speechless. Ham Aryam's mind spins. He must be teasing her. Why a bunny? She asks, her voice small. Baek Byomyong's answer is slow and deliberate as he compares her to something small, delicate, and soft. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes his gaze wasn't on her face. You perverted tiger, she accuses, pushing at his head. He doesn't flinch, his expression earnest. Is it wrong to want to look? He asks, his voice dropping with sincerity. I want to look at you. I want to touch you every day. Speechless, Aryam questions if he's drunk. I only had one drink, he replies, gently cupping her jaw. But even one gets you. Baek Byomyong leans in, his voice low and certain. He says he isn't drunk, only when he doesn't need to be. Without another word, he closes the distance, capturing Ham Aryam's lips in a deep, surprising kiss. The world seems to fall away. When they part, her face is flushed and she's breathless. He playfully wraps her scarf around her face, asking if she can breathe now. No, she protests. He wonders how they'll ever finish their investigation at this slow pace. This is already LTE speed for me, she exclaims. He just smirks, telling her his speed is 5G. Staring at their feet, she mutters, You're hopelessly perverted. A memory surfaces of sportscasters praising Baek Byomyong. The moment he appears on screen, the crowd's admiration is audible. The commentators gush over his amazing skills and outstanding looks, noting his physique is more solid than ever. Back in her living room, Aryam's mother asks if she will watch the game. I'm busy, Aryam states flatly, insisting she has overtime at the office. Her mother ignores the excuse, announcing that Byomyong is coming over after the match. She asks Aryam to buy meat for bulgogi, praising him as a dependable man focused only on soccer. A memory surfaces of their shared childhood, living in neighboring apartments where busy parents took turns raising them. Her family even took in Baek Byomyong when he returned to Korea alone. Now, he stands in her doorway, taller than she remembers, filling the frame in a red hoodie. Her parents greet him with familiar warmth, amazed at how much he's grown. His intense gaze finds hers, and the room seems to quiet. Baek Byomyong, Ham Aryam says, the name feeling foreign. Long time no see. A faint warmth appears on his cheeks. A memory flashes through Ham Aryam's mind. Back then, struggling with a tough internship, she had no energy to even think about Baek Byomyong's return. But he was there, sitting at her family's dinner table. As her parents doted on him, Baek Byomyong carefully deboned a piece of fish and placed it in her bowl. You need to eat well too, he said softly, ignoring her mother's protest that he was spoiling her. The warmth of that simple, caring gesture floods back to her now, bringing a deep blush to her cheeks. She never imagined they would end up like this. At the breakfast table, Ham Aryam's mother sighs, drained by the thought of watching her sister's twins. Aryam, don't ever have twins, she warns. Her father laughs, teasing that Baek Byomyong can help if she has triplets, giving him a confident thumbs up. The light-hearted comment lands with unexpected weight. Both Ham Aryam and Baek Byomyong freeze mid-chew, their faces flushing with heat as they exchange a wide-eyed, silent glance. Ham Aryam remembers how they used to laugh at these jokes, but now the air feels thick with unspoken possibility. With a loud clap, Ham Aryam's father enthusiastically declares they'll have a whole soccer team, earning a sharp rebuke from his wife. As her parents depart, leaving them alone, Baek Byomyong begins to clear the table. He tells Ham Aryam to just watch, promising he'll take care of everything. I want to help too, she insists, stepping forward. He turns to her, a faint smile playing on his lips. Then come give me a kiss on the cheek, he suggests, tapping his face expectantly. Ham Aryam puffs her cheeks, momentarily speechless. I'm not going to kiss you, Ham Aryam says, her cheeks burning. A faint smile plays on Baek Byomyong's lips. I know. As he turns away, she notices his back is completely stiff. She wonders. Driven by curiosity, she lightly touches his shoulder. Baek Byomyong jolts as if struck, whipping around with a face flushed crimson. He swallows hard, his usual confidence gone. "Who said you could touch me?" he sputters, accusing her of being sneaky. Ham Ariam stares, baffled by his sudden and intense reaction. This is what sneaky really means, Ham Ariam thinks, a playful smile touching her lips. She closes the distance, wrapping her arms around Baek Byomyong from behind as he stands at the sink. The moment her cheek touches his back, a jolt of panic hits her. She's just walked straight into the tiger's den. Before she can retreat, Baek Byomyong spins, pulling her into a firm embrace. His arms lock around her waist, and one hand gently cups her jaw, tilting her head. "Relax," he murmurs, his voice low as he leans in close. A sudden memory flashes through Ham Ariam's mind, a sunlit morning from their younger days. A boyish Baek Byomyong, cheeks flushed, lies beneath her, playfully calling her mean. Even then, he had whispered into her ear, "I want to go on a date with you." Back in the present, his words echo. Baek Byomyong leans down, their faces inches apart, and asks her out for the weekend. Panic flickers in Ariam's eyes as she protests that his chosen spot is too crowded. He gazes at her intently. "Do you hate being seen?" he asks. Her real fear spills out. What if they end up on the sports news? Baek Byomyong dismisses his own celebrity, but Ham Ariam insists everyone she knows recognizes him. His gaze sharpens with a sudden intensity. "Who around you?" he asks. As she lists her classmates and peers, his grip on her arm firms. "Ham Ariam," he says, his voice low and serious. "Are there any rivals I should know about?" She laughs off the absurd question, but he persists, his thumb tracing a soft line on her skin. Before she can argue further, he lifts her hand to his lips, whispering, "Hey," and gently kisses her fingertips. A tired yawn escapes Ham Ariam as she walks through campus. She tries to convince herself to focus on studying, but her thoughts are completely consumed by that sneaky tiger, Baek Byomyong. His intense question about rivals echoes in her mind, making her cheeks flush all over again. She dismisses the notion as ridiculous. Inside a quiet study space, she slaps her palms against a desk divider, a desperate attempt to regain her composure. The quiet is broken as a glass door slides open behind her, and she turns around, startled. Ham Ariam pushes through a glass door and freezes, caught off guard by a familiar face. She offers a hesitant hi. A nervous sweat trickles down her temple. The other woman, Seonmi, smiles knowingly. "We met again pretty quickly," she notes, holding a coffee. Her eyes scan Ariam, a hint of curiosity in her expression. "You're wearing makeup for once." Flustered, Ariam explains she's meeting someone later. "A friend?" Seonmi asks, her gaze glancing down. "Judging by the skirt, a guy maybe?" Ariam remains silent, thinking how Seonmi's words always have hidden meanings. Seonmi points toward a large crowd, mentioning she heard celebrities are filming a variety show. With a small, knowing smile, she asks if Ariam is interested, suggesting she go take a look. Ariam immediately understands the hidden meaning behind the seemingly innocent question and feels a wave of exhaustion wash over her. The conversation shifts again. Seonmi brings up her master's program and mentions hearing that Ariam is still looking for work. She then delivers a final, condescending offer. "If you really can't get a job, let me know. I'll ask the professor for you." Seonmi continues her saccharine advice, casually mentioning that a professor used to like Ariam. Flustered, Ariam offers a weak thanks. The conversation twists, with Seonmi criticizing her for being a poor networker, labeling it a weakness in society. The friendly mask shatters in Ariam's mind. She realizes this was a setup from the start. Forcing a smile, Ariam insists she's fine and doesn't need any help. But Seonmi pounces, accusing her of only wanting to get married to escape her problems. The air crackles with unspoken animosity. Ariam turns away, defeated. She knew Seonmi was looking down on her. Ham Ariam forces a bright, saccharine smile. She thanks Seonmi for her concern, promising she'll be the first to receive an invitation if she ever gets married. Seonmi's condescending questions continue, predicting Ariam will be single for another 10 years. But for the first time, the sharp words don't land. A quiet thought surfaces in Ariam's mind. Maybe it's because of Baek Byomyong that the insult doesn't hurt at all. A sudden vibration from her phone breaks the tense silence. Seonmi abruptly announces she's leaving, turning on her heel and walking away, leaving Ariam completely bewildered. Ham Ariam answers the unexpected call, her mind still unsettled from the conversation with Seonmi. A professional voice on the other end asks for her by name, introducing themselves as Seoul Entertainment. The name sends a jolt through her. It's the agency her ex-boyfriend used to be with. Completely bewildered, she asks why they're calling. The representative calmly explains they are following up on a resume she submitted. Ariam's mind goes blank. When did she ever do that? They apologize, saying her application was simply overlooked after being sent 2 Wednesdays ago. A jolt runs through Ariam. 2 Wednesdays ago. The date triggers a sudden, heated flash of memory. That was the day. An image of Baek Byomyong holding her, his muscular frame close, his hand cradling her head as he leans in. Her cheeks flush with warmth as the reality of the phone call pulls her back. Seoul Entertainment is offering her an interview for next Friday. Stumbling over her words, she eagerly accepts the offer. After hanging up, still reeling from the good news, she looks up to find Baek Byomyong standing in her living room. Ariam, still flushed from the phone call, questions Baek Byomyong's early return. Her surprise melts into breathless excitement as she announces she has an interview with Seoul Entertainment. But her joy is cut short when his expression darkens. He knows the company, he says, his voice laced with an unfamiliar edge. He reminds her it's where her first love was. The words hang in the air, chilling the warm atmosphere. Before she can process the strange comment, he closes the distance between them, his hand gripping her arm. "Don't go," he commands, his gaze intense. Ariam stares, bewildered by his sudden intensity. A flush creeps up Baek Byomyong's neck as he insists he refuses to see her laughing with her old flame, Song Ruin. The name snaps her out of her stupor. Why would she be with him? She asks, calling his possessiveness nonsense. He makes a startling counteroffer. Be his manager instead. The suggestion is too much. Frustration boiling over, she yanks her arm from his grasp, her voice sharp with irritation as she demands he let go. Her frustration boils over as her foot connects sharply with Baek Byomyong's shin. He drops to the floor, complaining that she struck a professional player's leg. Her anger gives way to a flicker of concern when he looks up, his expression pained. Offering a hand, she tells him to get up. Instead of taking it, his hand shoots out, clamping around her wrist. With a sudden, powerful tug, he pulls her off balance. Ariam gasps as she tumbles forward, landing directly in his arms. He holds her tight against him, her world shrinking to the sudden warmth of his embrace. Held firmly in Baek Byomyong's arms, Ariam's surprise gives way to confusion. He holds her tight, his apology a low murmur against her hair. He won't do it again, he promises, asking her to just let it go this once. Her mind flashes back to their childhood fights that used to last for days, a stark contrast to this sudden surrender. He complains that she's heavy, yet his arms only tighten around her, pulling her impossibly closer. The heat from his body seeps through her clothes, melting the last of her frustration into a quiet, pulsing warmth. Ariam stops in her tracks, surprised to find Baek Byomyong sitting on her couch. She asks why he's home at this hour instead of at work. He calmly replies that he has a fan meeting. The answer only confuses her more, so she asks why he came to her place. "You're my fan too," he says, his gaze locking onto hers. Ariam points to herself, completely bewildered by his logic. A flash of irritation crosses Byomyong's face. He remarks bitterly that she chases after Song Ruin but can't even visit him. Baek Byomyong's gaze hardens. He points out that she's always home when he visits, then asks why she never comes to his games. Flustered, Ariam asks if it really bothered him that much. "It's more than just bothering me," he says, his voice tight with frustration. Her own hurt finally spills out. She explains she can't stand to watch him constantly getting hurt on the field. In a swift, sudden move, he grabs her arm and pulls her directly onto his lap. The air grows thick with unspoken feelings. "Let's clear everything up now," he murmurs, holding her close. Baek Byomyong murmurs her name, his voice a low vibration against her skin. Ariam's cheeks flush as she tries to squirm away, demanding he let her go. After a tense silence, she relents with a sigh. "Fine, I lost," she admits, looking up into his intense gaze. She asks what she can do to make him feel better. A brilliant, victorious smile lights up his entire face. "Then come to my fan meeting today," he declares. Her eyes widen in disbelief. She argues that she's busy, but he counters, reminding her she once chased another celebrity. Cornered and flustered, she throws her hands up in defeat. "I'll go. Let's just go to the fan meeting." The city lights blur past the window as they drive in a charged silence. A faint heat rises in Ariam's cheeks. She murmurs that she'll need to change into something less noticeable, her mind racing. It's suddenly clear to her that his irritation isn't new. She just never recognized it. A memory flashes in her mind. Her younger self, fiercely telling a young Baek Byomyeong to keep his hands off her idol merchandise. Back then, her fandom was a source of friction between them. The car suddenly feels much smaller, thick with his quiet, long-standing jealousy. The memory rushes back, sharp and sudden. A shout echoes through the school hallway. There's a fight. Students rush forward, their voices a rising murmur. It's that guy, Baek Byomyeong. Pushing through the crowd, a younger Ham Aryam freezes. In the center of the chaos, a furious Baek Byomyeong confronts another boy who stumbles back with a split lip. Red stains dot Baek Byomyeong's white collar. As a friend yells for him to stop, his intense gaze finds Aryam in the crowd. Her face pales. He stops struggling, his eyes fixed on her horrified expression. Overwhelmed, Aryam turns to her friend. "Let's go," she whispers, pulling her away. Baek Byomyeong watches her leave, his fingers lightly brushing the crimson marks on his shirt. The harsh memory of the teacher's angry shout fades, replaced by the quiet hum of the parked car. Ham Aryam looks at Baek Byomyeong, wondering where he'll go during the fan meeting. His hand moves, fingers gently grazing her cheek as he murmurs that he'll get her a staff pass so she can stay nearby. Her anxious expression melts into a bright, hopeful grin. "Will you buy me something tasty today?" she asks. A faint blush rises on his cheeks, his gaze softening as he looks at her. He smiles, agreeing to treat her to whatever she desires. Beaming, Ham Aryam decides she wants cream pasta, and Baek Byomyeong softly promises they'll eat after. The fan meeting venue buzzes with a low hum of anticipation as a massive crowd waits. Fans of all ages are here, some clutching soccer balls, others holding his jersey high. A staff member ushers them through a private entrance, telling Byomyeong to hurry and prepare. Overwhelmed, Aryam's eyes widen at the sea of faces. Noticing her anxiety, Baek Byomyeong gently guides her to a secluded chair, his hand warm on her shoulder. "Sit here," he says softly. She looks up, flustered, and quietly agrees. A friendly staff member approaches, handing Ham Aryam a pass before teasing Baek Byomyeong for finally bringing a friend. Byomyeong's good mood sours instantly. As Aryam shyly introduces herself, the man offers his business card, asking her to take good care of the star player. Before her fingers can fully close around it, Byomyeong's hand darts out, snatching the card away. His gaze turns cold and sharp. "This is forbidden," he states, questioning why the staffer needs her personal information. He turns his back, leaving Aryam stunned by the sudden, intense possessiveness in his eyes. Always so temperamental, the staff member sighs. Ham Aryam stands frozen, completely bewildered. Before she can even blink, Baek Byomyeong's hand finds her arm, pulling her swiftly into a secluded room. The door clicks shut. He spins her around, enveloping her in a sudden, tight embrace that steals her breath. Her mind goes blank as their lips meet, the world fading into a warm haze. He rests his head on her shoulder, whispering for her to stay put and eat something. Dazed, she can only manage a quiet, "Okay." Ham Aryam's cheeks flush as she takes in the crowd of people, her anxiety rising. "I don't think I should be here," she whispers. Baek Byomyeong casually pulls her closer, his hand resting on her waist as he explains this is a small turnout for a cold day. Bewildered, she asks if he's some kind of idol. He just smirks and steps forward, leading her away. The air suddenly fills with the excited screams of fans calling his name. As he walks into the throng, his hand finds hers, lacing their fingers together in a firm, possessive grip. At a crowded fan event, a supporter holds up a sign proposing marriage to Baek Byomyeong. He stands on stage under the bright lights, speaking into a microphone. He introduces himself and thanks everyone for attending, asking them to enjoy themselves and be careful as the crowd erupts in cheers. From the audience, Ham Aryam watches him, a skeptical look on her face. He had sounded so weak and nervous when he called, which is why she came to help. Now, seeing him command the stage, she wonders if it was just a ploy to show off his popularity. The MC announces the grand prize, a signed soccer ball and a hug from Baek Byomyeong himself. The crowd erupts with excitement. On stage, Byomyeong flashes a charming wink, and from her seat, Ham Aryam's face flushes. She never realized he had this side to him. He reaches into the lottery box, and the MC calls out the lucky winner. Number 76. A woman in a red sweater jumps to her feet, hand raised high. The audience murmurs in surprise, recognizing her as the famous announcer, Choi Haeyoung. Murmurs ripple through the crowd as Choi Hae-young takes the stage. The rumors were true. The famous announcer is a fan. As promised by the MC, Baek Byung steps forward and pulls her into a close embrace. His hand rests confidently on the small of her back while cameras flash around them. From her seat, Ham Aryam's eyes go wide. A strange, unfamiliar heat rushes to her face as she watches them. Seeing him hold another woman so easily sends an unexpected pang through her chest, making her breath catch in her throat. The fan meeting finally winds down. Drained, Ham Aryam realizes she watched the whole thing, unable to tear herself away. She tells her colleague she'll wait in the car, eager to escape the lingering image of Baek Byung with another woman. As she navigates the busy backstage area, a heavy sigh escapes her lips. Suddenly, a staff member calls out, stopping her. "Excuse me," he says, apologizing for the interruption. He asks if she could help carry a small bag while he cleans up. Pulled from her thoughts, Aryam simply agrees. The staff member thanks Ham Aryam and turns to leave, but a flicker of suspicion makes him pause. He asks if she's from Baek Byung's agency. A nervous heat rushes through Aryam as she stammers an affirmative. His gaze drops to her name tag, Kim Yeonju. He knows that name. "Wait a second," he says, his hand clamping down on her arm as she tries to flee. His voice is low, accusing. "The Kim Yeonju I know is still working." His grip tightens, pinning her in place. "Who are you?" he demands. "You snuck in here, didn't you?" Panic seizes Ham Aryam. The staff member's accusations echo in the backstage corridor, his silhouette a threatening shadow. Before she can be dragged away, a calm voice cuts through the tension. "Excuse me, what's going on here?" "It's Baek Byung." As the staffer tries to explain she's an intruder, Byung's hand shoots out, clamping down on the man's wrist. "I've got her," he says, his voice dangerously low. He pries the man's fingers from Aryam's arm, stepping between them. His gaze falls on the red mark left behind, and his expression hardens. He looks back at the staffer, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Who are you?" Baek Byung's voice is ice as he grabs the staff member by the collar, his eyes burning with fury. He demands to know what kind of person grabs a woman's wrist, so hard it leaves a mark. The staffer stammers that he thought she'd snuck in, but Byung isn't listening, pressing him for proof. Other staff members gather in the hallway, their whispers filling the tense air as they plead with Byung to stop. The chaotic scene melts away into a memory from years ago, a younger Baek Byung in a school uniform, just as furious, confronting another student with that same protective fire. The memory of his younger self, burning with that same protective fire, dissolves into the tense present. Ham Aryam's fingers nervously clench her lanyard. Though another staff member calls his name, Baek Byung's world narrows, his furious gaze softening as it lands only on her. His voice cuts through the charged air, startlingly calm. "Let's go. I'm hungry," he says, reminding her of the promise she made to buy him pasta and steak. A deep blush warms Aryam's face, her mouth agape in disbelief. Without waiting, he turns, warning he'll leave without her. As Baek Byung turns to leave, Ham Aryam suddenly stops him. Her voice is quiet but unyielding. "Go apologize first," she instructs. He freezes, his face a mask of pure annoyance, asking why on earth he would do that. Her command hangs in the air, unwavering. A heavy sigh escapes him as he relents. He turns back to the staff member, offering a clipped apology for grabbing his collar. The air chills again as he adds a sharp warning never to touch his friend again. Then, facing a stunned Aryam, he sighs in frustration. "I'm sorry," he mutters, adding that she should apologize, too. With a deep bow, Ham Aryam apologizes to the staff members for Baek Byung's immaturity. Before she can finish speaking, his hand closes around hers, and he pulls her away impatiently. As they depart, one staffer watches them go, completely stunned, remarking he's never seen the athlete so worked up. Aryam stumbles along behind him, muttering about his lack of patience. But her irritation melts away. An image of him fills her mind, a flustered tiger boy, blushing as he confesses he only wants to show her his best side. A warm flush rises to her own cheeks as a single, undeniable thought forms. At 6:25 in the morning, Ham Aryam slips out of the bedroom and into the quiet house. A woman already in the kitchen spots her. "You're already up?" she asks, surprised. Flustered, Aryam stammers that she was just using the bathroom. Suddenly, Baek Byung strolls in, announcing his return. His intense gaze immediately finds Aryam, and a soft blush warms her cheeks. The woman asks Ariam to keep him company before leaving them alone. With nowhere to escape, Ariam stands awkwardly as Baek Byomyeong watches her from the dining table. Ariam awkwardly suggests that Baek Byomyeong can eat by himself, but he flatly refuses. "No, I can't." Seeing her turning to leave for her room, he correctly guesses she stayed up late again. Just as she makes her escape, Baek Byomyeong moves with surprising speed, his hand closing firmly around her arm. Ariam freezes, a hot blush spreading across her cheeks at the sudden, unexpected contact. His grip is gentle but insistent. "Don't go back to your room," he says, his gaze steady. Defeated, she lets out a tired sigh. Ariam slumps onto the dining table, her energy completely gone. "You're mean," Baek Byomyeong says softly, a hint of a pout on his lips. He thought she had woken up early because she had something for him. Confused, she looks up as he leans in, his voice low. "Since it's my birthday today." The words hit her like a jolt. Her face flushes with horror as she straightens up, stammering frantic apologies. "I totally forgot. Just tell me what you want. I'll buy you anything." He just stares back, his expression unreadable. The air grows heavy. Baek Byomyeong's voice is low, laced with years-old jealousy as he reminds Ariam she once made handmade chocolates for Song Ruin's birthday. "But I still get treated like leftovers?" he asks, his pout deepening. Ariam's temper flares, retorting that he was the one who ate them. The argument triggers a vivid flashback to their childhood. A furious young Ariam pinching his cheek, a woman scolding them both. Even then, they were locked in a stalemate, stubbornly demanding the other apologize first until a door slammed on their bickering. The memory of their worst fight ever floods back to Ariam. It was Valentine's Day during their 9th grade year, just after Song Ruin's debut. She remembers the pride she felt making her first handmade chocolates. Even knowing Song Ruin would never eat them, she stayed up all night, pouring her heart into the gift. She just never imagined Baek Byomyeong would be the one to devour her heartfelt creation. The memory shifts to a lonely playground at night, where a young Baek Byomyeong sits alone on a creaking swing. The memory continues as a young Baek Byomyeong finds Ariam on the swings at night. Surprised, she asks how he knew she was there. He gestures to the apartments, explaining he saw her from his window. He steps closer, his voice soft with concern as he asks if she's cold. Gently, he tilts her face toward his and quietly asks her to apologize. Then, he pulls her into a tight embrace, his own voice breaking. "Do you know how much I cried?" he confesses, before finally admitting, "I'm sorry. I was wrong." Leaning close over the swing, Baek Byomyeong's voice cracks with pent-up frustration. He tells Ariam he wouldn't have held on to his anger if she had just apologized, admitting how deeply her actions hurt him. Snow drifts down around them in the quiet park. "I was jealous," he confesses, the words hanging in the cold air. Ariam stares, stunned into silence. A deep blush spreads across Baek Byomyeong's face as he asks if a singer she never met meant more to her than their decade-long friendship. His pain is raw and undeniable, and the truth of it finally lands on Ariam. A deep blush spreads across Baek Byomyeong's face as he admits he always thought they were the closest. The weight of his confession finally lands on Ariam, and she whispers an apology. In an instant, he pulls her into a tight embrace, his voice thick with emotion as he begs her not to cry. "I was upset because I liked you more," he confesses, the words hanging between them. A sudden warmth spreads through Ariam's chest. Just as quickly, he pulls away, ending the moment. He turns and says they're going upstairs together. Ariam's face flushes as she gently scolds Baek Byomyeong, telling him not to say such mean things when he's the one getting hurt. Stunned by her concern, he quietly apologizes. Later, inside the apartment building, Ariam unwraps the box of chocolates. "Isn't that my gift?" Baek Byomyeong asks, confused. She playfully pops one into her mouth before holding another one up. "Here," she says softly, a small smile on her lips. "Your birthday present." Baek Byomyeong's entire face burns red, his heart pounding at the charged invitation. A bright blush spreads across Ariam's cheeks. She holds the chocolate near his lips, reminding him that he wanted it for his birthday and playfully telling him to eat it before it melts. Instead of taking the candy, Baek Byomyeong leans in, his eyes closing as he captures her lips with his. The moment is soft but charged. He pulls back just enough to murmur that it's too small. "Give me more," he demands, his voice low. He pulls her into a deep embrace, his grip tightening as their connection intensifies. Baek Byomyong deepens the kiss, his hand cupping Ham Aryam's face. Their cheeks are flushed with a deep red as the heat between them rises. Aryam's eyes are squeezed shut, her heart hammering against her ribs so hard she thinks it might burst. The intensity is overwhelming. He pulls back just enough to breathe, thinking to himself that this is so sweet. Then he presses her against the wall, their discarded jackets at their feet. He leans in close and murmurs that this is her fault for driving him crazy. The kiss deepens, leaving Ham Aryam breathless and clinging to Baek Byomyong. He pulls her tighter against the wall, kicking his shoes off with a decisive shove. His hand slips up her back, and the sudden closeness makes her flinch. "Wait, that's surprising," she gasps. He just murmurs for her to endure it, his fingers tracing a path that sends a jolt through her entire body. Overwhelmed, Aryam hides her face against his shoulder. Baek Byomyong leans in close, his voice a warm, raw whisper. I miss you." Ham Aryam breathes heavily, her face and neck flushed a deep red as she asks what he means. His hand gently comes to rest over her heart, and she lets out a small gasp. "Your warmth," Baek Byomyong murmurs. Her eyes fly open in shock. "What? No," she protests, pushing weakly against him as he holds her. She stammers that it's all too sudden. In a surprising move, he turns and draws her closer in his arms. Aryam stares, completely bewildered. "What are you doing?" she cries out. He holds her close and tells her he'll share this moment with her, too. Flustered, she insists that's not the issue at all. He leans back in close, his voice a low whisper against her skin, promising to stop after just one look. "It's your birthday, right?" Ham Aryam's breath catches in her throat. Baek Byomyong's plea for just one look echoes in the tense silence. Just once," she stammers, her face burning hot. He nods eagerly, his own cheeks flushed with an almost innocent anticipation. She thinks about protesting, but remembers his boldness from moments before. His wide, hopeful eyes break down her resolve. "Okay," she agrees in a small voice. With trembling hands, she grips the edge of her pink shirt and slowly draws closer, averting her gaze as she asks, "Like this?" Baek Byomyong's cheeks flush a deep red as his intense gaze locks onto her. Mortified, Ham Aryam keeps her eyes squeezed shut, her own face burning. "This is enough now, right?" she pleads, her voice trembling. He leans in, his hands gently holding her arms. "Hold me just a bit longer," he murmurs, asking to look more closely. Her eyes fly open in disbelief as he continues to stare. He finally breathes out, "It's a pretty color." All the while, his face remains nestled against her, his presence a warm, overwhelming weight. The call ends, leaving a tense silence. He finally lifts his head, his own cheeks red, and declares, "I'll walk you home." Ham Aryam sits alone on an outdoor bench, face flushed and mind reeling from the encounter with Baek Byomyong. She clutches her hands, wondering when he grew so big and why his touch leaves her so breathless. All thoughts of studying have evaporated, replaced by the overwhelming presence of the tiger. Her spiraling thoughts are cut short when a man in a tan coat, also muttering about managing a sulky tiger, rounds the corner. "Aryam," he calls out. She jumps, startled, and offers a nervous and slightly confused hello. The man in the tan coat confirms her name, his voice warm and familiar. He asks if she came here to study, and Ham Aryam gives a flustered yes, feeling a flush of guilt for daydreaming instead. He kindly notes that job hunting must be difficult. She quickly insists she's fine, though her thoughts betray her, telling herself it's not tough because she isn't doing anything difficult. He just smiles gently and calls her strong. He suggests they move somewhere less busy to talk, and she recognizes his unchanging, charming smile. She happily agrees to join him after grabbing her coat. In a fond memory, Ham Aryam recalls a popular senior named Wonyam. So many juniors had crushes on him, and she admits she nearly became one of them until she saw he was just kind to everyone. Outside a campus building, he offers to buy her a drink, but she declines. He smiles warmly, asking if she's returning for the new semester. When he wonders if she uses the school library often, Ham Aryam's face lights up with a bright, eager expression. "Yes, I come almost every day," she lies, unable to resist the chance to see him again. Ham Aryam's mind drifts to a hazy, pink-tinted daydream, a stark contrast to her lie about the library helping her focus. She imagines an intimate moment, her thoughts becoming a warm, distracting blush. Back on campus, Wonyang's voice pulls her from the fantasy. He asks if she's considering joining a job prep study group he's organizing. At the mention of interview prep, Ham Ariam's eyes sparkle with hope. She tells him she has an interview coming up and asks for time to decide. Won Young smiles kindly, wishing her luck and giving her a deadline. Later that evening, Baek Byomyeong casually asks if anything happened today. Ham Ariam, lounging on the couch with her arms crossed, dismisses the question. Nothing major, she replies, before pointedly adding, other than the fact that you nuzzled against me so tenderly. Baek Byomyeong freezes mid-action, completely taken aback. He leans forward, his gaze softening with concern, and asks if something is worrying her. She sighs, her expression unreadable. What else would I be worried about besides you? She says, before finally admitting a senior invited her to a study group. Baek Byomyeong's voice is low. Is it a guy? Ham Ariam squirms, admitting it is but quickly adding it's a group. Unconvinced, he sits beside her, pressing for details. She shakes her head, insisting they weren't close. He's just asking me to study, she argues, frustrated by his suspicion. Baek Byomyeong's gaze darkens with an emotion she can't quite read. You're the one who doesn't get it, he says softly. Annoyed, she retorts that he has no right to meddle. The air grows thick with unspoken words. Then I'll help, he declares. With your interview. A quiet clicks echoes as Ham Ariam emerges, ready for their mock interview. She smooths down her professional black suit, her bare feet silent on the floor. With a nervous tug on her blazer, she clears her throat and stands tall. Hello, I'm Ham Ariam, she recites, her voice steady. Across from her, Baek Byomyeong's professional composure crumbles. A warm blush spreads across his face as he stares, momentarily speechless. You're dressed way too alluring, he blurts out, flustered. Ham Ariam's confident facade cracks into confusion. What do you mean? She asks, hands on her hips. Baek Byomyeong's face burns as he insists she wear pants. Skirts look better on me, Ham Ariam retorts, her patience wearing thin. That's the problem, he exclaims. She defends her choice as standard interview attire, but he denies it. Leaning close, her voice drops to a low warning, promising to take him down if he mentions it again. He freezes, speechless. With a sudden shift, she sits opposite him, professionally introducing herself. Flustered, Baek Byomyeong fumbles his first question. She sighs, her frustration palpable. Taking a breath, he finds his composure. Ms. Ham Ariam, what are your hobbies? Ham Ariam professionally lists reading as a hobby. Baek Byomyeong's questions quickly turn personal as he asks about her favorite genre, looking surprised when she doesn't say romance. Her polite facade shatters. She accuses him of turning the interview into a blind date. Flustered, he tries to recover but instead teases her about someone named Song Ruin. That's the final straw. I'm not doing this, she yells, surging across the desk to grab his shirt collar. He freezes, his eyes wide and a blush creeping up his neck as she pulls him close. Are you not going to take this seriously? Ham Ariam demands, clutching his collar. A blush spreads across Baek Byomyeong's neck as he quickly agrees. Releasing him, she tries to compose herself. He clears his throat, asking what value she holds most important in life. Trust and faith, she replies firmly. He quietly agrees. The air between them stills, charged with a sudden seriousness. In a flash, Baek Byomyeong leans across the desk, wrapping his arms around her. I need a break, he murmurs, resting his head on her shoulder. It's the weekend. We should go on a date. Baek Byomyeong leans in, his breath warm against her skin. He abandons the interview entirely, a blush creeping up his neck as his questions become intensely personal. Can I kiss you? He asks, his voice low. Ham Ariam's mind spins. What kind of interview is this? Yet, as her cheeks burn, another thought shouts over the panic. Annoyed but resigned, she meets his gaze. Deep down, she admits to herself that she always saw this future coming. The space between them vanishes. The world melts into a soft haze as their lips meet. Ham Ariam's arms instinctively find their way around his neck, her mind surrendering to the warmth. A jolt of surprise shoots through her as Baek Byomyeong suddenly lifts her from the chair. Without thinking, her legs wrap around his waist. He holds her firmly, his embrace possessive and sure. His attention moves from her lips, tracing a warm path down her neck. Every touch ignites the air, leaving them both breathless in the tense silence of the room. Baek Byomyeong leans in close, his breath warm against Ham Ariam's skin as he playfully nibbles her ear. She flinches, telling him to stop. It feels weird, she gasps. He pulls her into a tight embrace, his lips pressing against her cheek. She protests that it hurts, though she privately admits it's not true. He sighs, his gaze serious. Don't go to your interview dressed like this. It's too revealing. Flustered, Ariam retorts that he is the only one who sees her that way. Her words hang in the air. Suddenly, he closes the distance, his lips meeting hers in a definite kiss. Ariam freezes, her eyes wide with shock. Baek Byomyeong deepens the kiss, his hand gripping the front of her blouse. See? This outfit is really suggestive, he murmurs against her lips. Flustered, Ariam questions what's so revealing about it. A button gives way, and in one swift motion, he pushes her back. She lands on the floor with a shocked cry. He looms over her, his gaze locked and intense, all hesitation gone. He leans down, his breath warm as he whispers her name, Ariam, before his lips find the delicate skin of her neck. The world narrows to the warmth of Baek Byomyeong's touch. His lips trace a path over Ariam's collarbone and lower, sending a deep shudder through her. A soft, breathless sound escapes her as his hand gently cradles her, his touch both tender and firm. The heat is overwhelming, a flush spreading across her skin. Her body arches in response, her toes curling as she grips the bedding. Lost in the dizzying sensation, Ariam's wide, amber eyes fix on him, her expression a mix of shock and burgeoning heat. Baek Byomyeong's breath is warm as he calls her name, his body pressing close. An undeniable rhythm begins between them, electric and overwhelming. Ariam's hands rest weakly against his chest as he leans in, his expression intense, and captures her lips in a deep, consuming kiss. Her mind screams that this is dangerous, a line they should not cross. Stop, she whispers, her voice barely audible, but her plea is lost in the moment as he ignores her faint resistance, their closeness sending shivers down her spine. The moment dissolves into a blur of heat and breathless sighs. But just as quickly, reality snaps back into focus. Ariam shoves him away, scrambling on the messy floor as she tries to cover herself. She demands to know why he never knows when to stop. Baek Byomyeong drops his head, filled with regret. I'm sorry, he says, admitting he lost his mind for a second. Her anger stalls when he looks at her, a deep blush on his cheeks. He confesses that she looked so beautiful that trying to hold back is just too difficult for him. Ariam stares, completely stunned into silence by his raw admission. You jerk, Ariam thinks, her face flushed. She can't believe she was about to practice for an interview with such an impassioned tiger. As she fumbles to put her shirt back on, she mumbles that she needs to wash up. Baek Byomyeong's quiet offer to help makes her recoil. Help with what exactly? She asks. But as she steps away, she loses her footing. He moves in a flash, catching her securely. Be careful, he whispers, holding her close. Every time you do that, my heart drops. She freezes in his embrace. Baek Byomyeong's hands are surprisingly gentle as he carefully adjusts her shirt, his touch sending a tremor through her. Beside him, his own hand clenches into a tight fist, betraying the calm on his face. Ariam finally darts away, escaping into the bathroom. Go wash up, he says, his voice steady. The door clicks shut behind her. She steps directly under the shower, letting the cool stream drench her clothes as she tries to calm her racing heart. A flustered thought echoes in her mind. She should have pinched his lips really hard. Ariam groans, staring at her damp interview outfit in the bathroom mirror. A knock at the door breaks her spiraling thoughts. Baek Byomyeong's voice calls out, asking when she's coming out after 30 minutes. She emerges, and he immediately takes her hand, leading her toward the couch where he's laid out skincare products. As they sit down to practice, he plays the role of the interviewer. The interviewer is way too much of a beast, he says with a pensive look. When she starts to protest, he leans in closer, his gaze intense. No, the real problem is the interviewee is too appealing. Flustered, Ariam tells him to cut it out, but he simply whispers, I can never lie. Baek Byomyeong holds up a jar of moisturizing cream, telling her to use it. Ariam laughs, thinking he's being incredibly meticulous. Deciding to let it slide because he's cute, she takes the jar, but he gently stops her. Come here, he says, his voice soft. I'll put it on for you. He tenderly brushes her hair back, his fingers dabbing the cream onto her skin. She closes her eyes, realizing he isn't scary at all. He'd never do anything to truly frighten her. Leaning in closer, he breaks the silence. Can I ask you just one thing? He whispers, his gaze intent. Do you really want to work at Soil? Ariam touches her cheek, her expression softening. She admits she wants the interview, explaining she's not in a position to be picky. With a sudden move, she wraps her arms around Baek Byomyong's neck, pulling him close. "Do you really hate the idea of me working there that much?" she asks softly, even offering not to go if he's truly against it. He shakes his head, his face hidden against her shoulder as he murmurs his full support for whatever she decides. In that moment, the truth hits her, clear and undeniable. She thanks him, holding him tighter. Baek Byomyong really does like her. The morning of Ham Aryam's big interview arrives. Drawn from her room by the sound of food sizzling in a pan, she peeks into the kitchen, her eyes widening in disbelief. Baek Byomyong stands at her stove, skillfully cooking in a floral apron. Confused, she asks if he doesn't have training. He turns to her, a faint blush on his cheeks, and tells her he came to give her a ride. "Hurry and get ready," he says, before adding with a serious look, "and don't dress too pretty, or I'll have to inspect you." Flustered, Aryam turns away and hurries to her room, completely baffled by his words. After careful consideration, Ham Aryam emerges from her room dressed in a sharp black pantsuit for her interview. Baek Byomyong turns from the table, plates of food in hand, and his gaze softens. "I told you not to dress too nicely," he says, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Confused, she explains she wore pants just like he suggested. He steps forward, closing the small gap between them. Wrapping an arm gently around her shoulders, he leans in and places a soft kiss on her temple. The unexpected warmth sends a jolt through her, leaving her wide-eyed and flustered. "I'm hungry," she whispers, the first word she can manage. With his hands resting gently on Ham Aryam's shoulders, Baek Byomyong asks if she'll do well at her interview. Her own hands twist together nervously as she admits she isn't sure. He advises her to just give it her best so she won't have regrets. Her anxiety bubbles up again. "But really, do you think I can do well?" A confident smile spreads across his face. "If not, I'll take care of you," he says, suddenly pulling her into a warm, firm embrace. Caught off guard, she laughs, telling him he really says the craziest things. Snowflakes drift down as Baek Byomyong pulls the car over in front of a large office building. Ham Aryam steps out, telling him this is close enough. He leans out the driver's side window, encouraging her to do her best. A teasing smile spreads across his face as he offers to go in with her if she's too nervous. She shoots back a sharp reply, asking if he's looking for trouble. As she walks carefully toward the entrance, her shoes slipping on the snowy pavement, she suddenly stops, her feet planted firmly on the ground. She glances over her shoulder one last time. Baek Byomyong stands by his car, his quiet presence a source of strength in the falling snow. A sudden surge of determination courses through her. Ham Aryam turns and thrusts both arms into the air, a silent promise to give it her all. A warm, proud smile spreads across his face as he lifts a hand in a small wave. Facing the imposing glass building, she takes a deep, steadying breath. "I can do this," she whispers to herself, stepping inside. Her voice is clear at the reception desk. "Hello, I'm Ham Aryam, here to interview for the PR team." An employee with a warm smile welcomes Ham Aryam, saying they've been expecting her. She leads Aryam through the bright, modern office. When offered a coffee or tea, a blush creeps up Aryam's cheeks as she politely declines, worried she might need the restroom later. Left alone in a large conference room, she sits down stiffly. Her heart hammers against her ribs. The interview hasn't even started, but her nerves are already frayed. The door suddenly opens with a soft click. Aryam looks up, startled, as a man enters. "Hello," he says. Ham Aryam introduces herself with a polite bow as the interviewer pulls out a chair. He cuts straight to the chase, noting her impressive background before asking why she'd choose to work at a company he calls ridiculously small. Her hands clench in her lap, a flash of unease crossing her mind. But then, a surprising calm settles over her. She meets his gaze and explains she wants a comfortable workplace, adding that she doesn't see the company as small at all. A wave of astonishment washes over her. She's answering smoothly. "Maybe this interview will be okay." Empty cans sit on the table as Baek Byomyong's voice cuts through the silence, waking Ham Aryam from her sleep on the sofa. He gently pulls her into a sitting position, his expression serious. "You cried by yourself, didn't you?" Dazed, she mumbles about the soup he promised her. Ignoring her protests about being hungry, he pulls her into a firm embrace. Even now, he thinks she looks cute. He pulls back just enough for their eyes to meet, the space between them charged with unspoken warmth. "Ham Aryam," he asks softly, "what happened at the interview?" Baek Byomyong holds Ham Aryam securely in his lap, his gaze intense as he demands to know every single detail of the interview. Hesitantly, she explains the series of strange questions, first about her relationship status, and then a sudden, bizarre demand for her to sing. Baek Byomyong's expression darkens with understanding as he puts the pieces together. She felt she messed up, got upset, and drank alone. Startled by his sharp tone, Ham Aryam looks up at him. "Don't get mad." His features soften instantly. "I'm not," he murmurs, gently pressing her head against his chest. "How could I ever get mad at you? Just seeing you cry makes me so frustrated I could explode." Baek Byomyong presses on, asking what song she sang at the interview. Ham Aryam hesitates, her face flushed with embarrassment before she quietly admits it was the national anthem. The admission hangs in the air for a moment before Baek Byomyong's shoulders begin to shake. He tries to suppress his laughter, pulling her close and burying his face against her hair. "So cute," he thinks, utterly charmed. Flustered, Ham Aryam pushes against him. "Are you going to keep making fun of me?" she demands, her voice tight. "This is why I didn't want to tell you." He just holds her tighter, his muffled voice promising he won't laugh anymore. In a flashback, Baek Byomyong admits his first love was always Ham Aryam. He remembers standing beside her as a teenager while a relative asks about her new high school life. Aryam smiles, cheerfully announcing she's going to a concert with some new friends she's been spending time with. But when another boy's name is mentioned, Byomyong's face falls. He recalls how his composure always crumbled around her, leading to a series of clumsy mistakes, from messing up homework to accidentally setting a treasured doll aflame in his nervousness. He recalls all his clumsy mistakes, even stealing the chocolates Ham Aryam once made for an idol named Song Ruin. On the soccer field, that jealousy fueled a new fire. Vowing to become more famous than her idol, he channeled his frustration into a powerful kick that stunned his teammates. In the present, his manager urges him over the phone to accept the priceless opportunity with a UK team. But Baek Byomyong, holding a ring box and a single rose, makes his decision. "Hyung," he says firmly, "I want to stay in Korea." His gaze is resolute. "I have unfinished business to take care of." Steeled with determination, Baek Byomyong steps into the apartment, a rose and ring box hidden behind his back. "Ham Aryam, I'm at home," he calls out, his heart already pounding. He stops dead in the hallway as her voice floats from the bedroom. Peeking in, he sees her on the bed, complaining into her phone about how much she despises the smell of sweat, calling it utterly disgusting. The words slice through his resolve. His hand tightens on his shirt as her voice seals his defeat, and he turns to leave without a sound. A memory surfaces in Baek Byomyong's mind. A younger Ham Aryam telling him to wash up after he returns from practice. He always came home reeking of sweat, but her expression never betrayed her true feelings. The crushing realization lands now. Tears silently stream down his face as he stands in the hallway, his heart shattering. He always knew she disliked him, but not this much. Defeated, he turns away and raises his phone to his ear, telling his manager he's reconsidering the job transfer. He was going to leave for England and never look back. In the locker room, congratulations on Baek Byomyong's success in England fade into the background. While a teammate talks of contracts, his mind is lost in a flood of memories, each one featuring Ham Aryam. He misses her with an ache that brings tears to his eyes. A teammate notices, assuming it's relief from a hard-won game. But Byomyong knows better. It's not about soccer. His heart screams a single, desperate truth. He can't live without her. He recalls seeing her again after 3 years, stunned silent by how beautiful she was. Baek Byomyong's resolve hardens. He can't give up on Ham Aryam. He orchestrates a careful plan, offering her a ride and showering meticulously so she won't find him disgusting. His goal is for her to lower her guard, to recreate the intimacy that led them to wake up together. Back in the present, Ham Aryam despairs on the couch, lamenting her drunken mistake of sending out her resume everywhere. She tries to muster some optimism, but frustration overtakes her as tears stream down her face. Baek Byomyong watches, finding her vulnerability endearing. Baek Byomyong gently wipes a tear from Ham Aryam's cheek as she worries about her future. He reassures her, suggesting she take her time to find what she wants to do, promising to believe in her no matter what. The comforting mood shifts as she notices his intense gaze. "Why do you keep staring like that?" she asks, flustered. He replies simply, "Because you're so pretty." When she dismisses it as something he always says, he insists. Caught off guard, she returns the compliment. He leans closer, the air thick with anticipation. "Can I?" he whispers. Baek Byomyong leans closer, a faint blush on his cheeks as he warns her that she might be surprised. His hand gently cradles Ham Aryam's face, and he closes the distance between them, whispering that he can no longer stand the way she used to look at him. Their lips meet in a soft, sweet connection. It leaves her breathless, the faint taste of alcohol hanging in the air. When they part, she looks flustered. "You smell like alcohol," she murmurs. He misinterprets it as a complaint, but she quietly clarifies the scent is her own. His patience snaps. "Are you trying to provoke me?" he demands sharply. "No," she whispers. Baek Byomyong's face is flushed as he tells her to stop if she hates it. With her own cheeks burning, Ham Aryam quietly confesses the opposite, admitting she likes it too much. Her words are all the invitation he needs. He pulls her in again, capturing her lips in a deeper connection as her hands instinctively grip the fabric of his shirt. After a moment, he pulls back slightly, asking if she still smells alcohol on him. She shakes her head. He then admits he likes the scent on her, making her laugh. His expression turns serious. "Then don't laugh." A soft chuckle escapes Ham Aryam's lips, defying his command. The air crackles with unspoken feelings as she leans forward, but not for his mouth. Instead, she presses a gentle, lingering kiss onto his cheek. Baek Byomyong freezes, his eyes wide with stunned silence. Pulling back slightly, a warm smile plays on her lips. "Baek Byomyong, you're pretty too," she whispers, turning his own words back on him. Before he can respond, she gently places her hand over his mouth, quieting him. He closes his eyes, completely flustered by her unexpected show of affection. The city skyline settles into a starry dusk as a pot of soup bubbles warmly on the stove. Baek Byomyong tends to it, noting that Ham Aryam must have bought it from her favorite restaurant. She quietly confirms. As they wait for it to cook, he steals a hesitant glance at her, a faint warmth coloring his cheeks. Ham Aryam notices his sudden shyness and asks what's on his mind. Taking a steadying breath, Baek Byomyong turns and asks if she wants to go out over the weekend. Surprised, she stammers that she needs to study. Ham Aryam protests, reminding him he was just away in Spain. With a slight blush, Baek Byomyong explains he has to work harder for his rehab and will only be in Japan for a week. A wave of sadness washes over Aryam as she realizes they'll be apart. He gently brings the conversation back, asking what she wants to do for their weekend outing. "A normal date," she murmurs, suggesting movies or a cafe. He immediately agrees. They settle on their simple plan, but the scene abruptly darkens. The air grows heavy, charged with an overwhelming warmth. Intense scene suddenly dissolves, flashing back. Hours earlier, Ham Aryam stands before a mirror, innocently gathering her golden blonde hair. "Should I tie my hair up?" she wonders aloud. Ham Aryam stands before the mirror, deciding to keep her hairstyle simple when a figure in the reflection makes her jump. Baek Byomyong is already there, leaning against her doorframe. A faint blush dusts his cheeks as he pulls at his beanie, caught watching her. They sneak out of the apartment, closing the door with a quiet click. As they walk, he asks about their plans, and she confirms they're going to the movies. He walks a bit too fast, his eagerness apparent, but quickly apologizes and slows his pace, asking if she waited. She just shakes her head, realizing he couldn't wait at all. Ham Aryam smiles, telling Baek Byomyong he didn't have to pick her up. As they stroll down the sidewalk, he casually drapes an arm around her shoulder, the warmth of his touch seeping through her coat. He asks what movie she wants to watch. Aryam looks up at him, her heart fluttering at their sudden closeness, and admits she has no preference. A deep blush creeps up his neck as he gently tells her to decide on the way. Arriving at the bustling theater, he instructs her to wait while he buys popcorn. Ham Aryam waits patiently, her chin resting in her hand as she watches Baek Byomyong stand in the concession line. A faint blush warms her cheeks as she observes him from afar. He returns with a large popcorn and 2 drinks, but his fame precedes him. Whispers ripple through the crowd as 2 people recognize the famous athlete. Ham Aryam's eyes widen, her face flushing a deep crimson as he reaches the table. He notices her sudden change. "What's wrong?" he asks. She springs to her feet, flustered. "Nothing," she insists, though her heart hammers against her ribs. He offers her the popcorn, but she nervously declines, saying she'll eat it during the movie. In the dim theater, the projector's glow illuminates the space between them. Baek Byomyong notices Ham Aryam isn't watching the screen. He leans in close, his voice a low whisper against her ear, teasing that she must have come to admire him instead of the film. But her mind is blank, her eyelids growing heavy as the dull plot drags on. The world fades. A gentle voice pulls her from the haze. Ham Ariam, wake up, Baek Byomyong says as the theater lights come on. She jolts, rubbing her eyes. He looks at her with soft concern. You look really tired, he observes. Didn't you sleep last night? Leaving the dull movie behind, Baek Byomyong suggests they go to an arcade. A competitive spark ignites in Ham Ariam's eyes as she points to a fighting game and proposes a wager. The loser grants the winner a wish. He smirks and accepts the deal. Seconds later, he stares at the screen, stunned by a swift, total defeat. Seriously? He mutters, completely bewildered by her hidden talent. Ham Ariam laughs, thoroughly enjoying his shock. He demands a rematch, but she coolly informs him he'll never win, easily beating him once more. The warm glow of sunset filters through the bare trees as they walk together. A playful smile touches Ham Ariam's lips as she glances at the silent Baek Byomyong. Are you mad? She asks, her tone light and teasing. He quickly denies it, asking why he would be, but the bright red tips of his ears betray his wounded pride. Seeing right through him, she adds, next time, I'll let you win. He stops, completely flustered. She leans in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I dare you to let me win. Baek Byomyong stops in his tracks and turns to face her. Let's hold hands, he says, holding his hand out. A soft blush warms Ham Ariam's cheeks. She thinks he's impossibly cute, even when he's being so demanding. She places her hand in his, and a jolt of warmth rushes through her as their fingers intertwine. Her heart races. She asks if he'll let go now, but he just holds on tighter. Looking down at her with a flustered expression, he asks what she wants. Ham Ariam, he says, his voice soft. Give me your wish. A faint blush dusts Baek Byomyong's cheeks as he looks at Ham Ariam, his voice soft and earnest. Your wish, give it to me, he requests. Later, she huffs in frustration as he questions why he should give her the prize he won fair and square. But then his tone softens completely. He reminds her she doesn't even need it, promising he'll do anything she asks anyway. Left speechless, Ham Ariam knows it's true. Suddenly, Baek Byomyong stands, pulling her to her feet by the wrist, his grip firm. With a hopeful yet nervous smile, Ham Ariam asks what his wish is. Baek Byomyong's gaze is soft, a faint blush on his cheeks as he invites her inside his house to tell her. She flinches, a wave of heat rising to her face as he leads her to his front door. The lock clicks open, and they step inside. The door shuts with a solid thud, sealing them in the quiet, dim apartment. He turns to face her, shrugging his jacket from his shoulders. Ariam watches, her heart pounding, and asks what he's planning now. Baek Byomyong's expression hardens with resolve. As Ham Ariam stands frozen, her heart thundering against her ribs, he suddenly closes the space between them. He leans in, his face just inches from hers, the air crackling with unspoken tension. Ham Ariam instinctively squeezes her eyes shut, her cheeks burning hot as she braces herself. After a long moment, she peeks one eye open, only to find him still staring down at her. Why? He murmurs, his voice low. Utterly flustered by his intense proximity, she exclaims, why? Baek Byomyong's intense gaze holds hers. You do it, he commands softly. Kiss me. The request sends a shockwave through Ham Ariam, her cheeks flushing a deep red. He reminds her that she's never been the one to initiate things, clarifying that a simple peck and a real kiss are entirely different. Annoyed by his clever maneuvering, she clenches her jaw. With a surge of frustrated determination, she takes a firm step forward, rises onto her toes, and captures his lips. His eyes widen in surprise before softening, fluttering shut as he accepts the moment. A soft warmth blooms between them, and for Ham Ariam, it feels like experiencing her first kiss all over again. They finally part, and she gasps for breath, cheeks burning. Baek Byomyong looks down at her, his gaze steady. He claims the kiss was so quick he barely understood what happened and calmly demands, do it again. Stunned, she looks up from within his arms. Again, she whispers. He leans in close, his voice a low murmur. That's my wish. Before she can process his words, he moves, backing her against the wall. His hand slams beside her head, trapping her. His wish is being executed. Straining on her toes, Ham Ariam complains in frustration, I can't reach. With a knowing look, Baek Byomyong ends her struggle. He gently cups the back of her neck, tilting her head and pulling her into a deep, consuming kiss that steals the air from her lungs. The moment ignites, and in a blur of movement, jackets and sweaters are cast aside. A soft gasp escapes Ham Ariam's lips as the world dissolves into a warm haze, leaving only the palpable heat between them in the silent apartment. Flustered, she protests that it's all too fast. But he simply dismisses her concern, his voice soft yet unyielding. It's not fast. For me. Glancing out at the falling snow, Ham Ariam realizes her parents have left, leaving her alone. She thinks she should take a bath, but an intense memory suddenly flashes through her mind. It's Baek Byomyong, his face flushed and just inches from hers, confessing how wild she drives him. Heat floods her cheeks as she clutches the blanket tight. "Why do you say things like that?" she mutters to the empty room, calling him a sly tiger. Tossing the blanket aside, she admits the real problem. She always weakens when she looks into his eyes. Flustered, Ham Ariam grapples with her own thoughts. She realizes she ends up wanting to agree with whatever he says. Deciding to clear her head with a bath, she pulls off her lounge pants and heads out of the bedroom. Suddenly, the front door swings open. Baek Byomyong stands there, taking in the scene. Ham Ariam freezes in place, completely stunned. You. She stammers. He asks calmly if she's going to bathe. "What are you doing here at this hour?" she demands, her voice shaky. "Why didn't you go to training?" He simply replies, "It's snowing outside." Baek Byomyong calmly explains that snow on the field means no morning practice. Ham Ariam, cheeks flushed, presses him about indoor training, but he just says that's for the afternoon. His gaze shifts downwards. "Don't worry about me," he says. "Why aren't you wearing pants?" A wave of heat rushes through her as she looks down. She yelps, darting behind the bedroom door to hide. Mortified, she shouts, "Why are you telling me now? You pervert." From the living room, his easy laughter echoes. He settles onto the couch, watching the snow fall. Ariam emerges from her room, now properly dressed. She watches Baek Byomyong on the couch, his expression distant. He looks like he didn't sleep well, and she figures it's natural for him to be thoughtful after what happened between them. She walks over and asks if he's eaten. He turns, telling her he woke up when she arrived, before gently scolding her for her bad habit of waking up so late. "And whose fault is that?" she retorts, cheeks flushing with heat. He looks back, feigning innocence. "Mine." "No." He smoothly changes the subject. "I dried my hair and made food." Her anger evaporates, replaced by complete surprise. Food. He must have prepared it all while she was in the bath. A warm, delicious scent suddenly hangs in the air. Steam rises from a beautiful breakfast spread, but Ham Ariam is focused on her reflection, poking at the dark circles under her eyes. It's his fault she looks so tired. From the couch, Baek Byomyong notices her distress and casually asks if she has a pimple. "They're dark circles from lack of sleep." "Thanks to you," she snaps. "Let me see," he says, beckoning her closer. "Show me how bad they are." Her cheeks burn as she accuses him of having other intentions. "Not true," he replies smoothly, urging her to hurry because he's curious. After a tense moment, Ariam plants her hands on her hips, her expression resolved. Ham Ariam leans in close, her face just inches from his. "Here, see?" she demands, waiting for him to inspect her dark circles. But Baek Byomyong isn't looking at her tired eyes. His gaze softens as he takes in her features, her thick eyelashes, her nose, her lips. "You just look beautiful," he murmurs, a faint blush on his cheeks. Completely flustered, Ariam stammers that he's missing the point. Before she can react, he swiftly pulls her forward. She gasps, falling against his chest as he wraps his arms around her. "He set a trap for me," she realizes, heart thumping wildly. Pressed against Baek Byomyong's chest, Ham Ariam's face burns with heat. She silently scolds herself for falling for his clumsy tricks yet again. His voice is soft as he asks if she's okay. Her heart hammers against her ribs, a frantic rhythm she's never felt before. A shaky breath escapes her lips. This feeling is frightening and new, but as she tentatively grips the back of his sweater, she realizes she has no desire to push him away. A quiet warmth blooms inside her, overriding all her usual anxieties. A dizzying wave washes over Ham Ariam as she finds herself settled on Baek Byomyong's lap. His hands rest gently on her waist as he asks if she's okay. "I am dizzy," she stammers, her face burning with heat. He cups her cheek, his gaze softening as he wonders if she's still uncomfortable with him. She shakes her head, her voice barely a whisper. "It isn't discomfort, it's just scary." He reassures her that it's natural to fear the unknown. Her heart hammers against her ribs, a frantic rhythm threatening to burst. The heavy silence stretches between them until Ham Ariam breaks it. asking why he's so quiet. In a flash, Baek Byomyeong moves from the couch to stand directly before her, his sudden proximity making her jump. He offers a quick, flustered apology. "I'm really sorry," he says, bowing his head low. "I never meant to scare you." The air grows thick with tension again as they sit apart. A warm blush floods Ham Aryam's cheeks. This whole situation is exasperating. She realizes she doesn't hate this at all. In fact, she just wishes she knew how to tell him she wants to close the distance between them. A blush creeps up Baek Byomyeong's neck as he softly speaks her name. Ham Aryam's heart hammers in her chest, a dizzying mix of fear and excitement swirling within her. She knows that if he asks again, she won't be able to refuse. The charged moment shatters when he suddenly suggests they eat something. The romantic air evaporates instantly, leaving Aryam utterly bewildered. He springs to his feet, telling her to forget whatever he said last night. "I made a mistake," he says, his face flushed, before turning and walking stiffly away. In the quiet of the locker room, Baek Byomyeong reflects on a painful memory Ham Aryam has long since forgotten. He recalls the frightening childhood incident, a failed attempt to take her away that left a lasting shadow. Even now, he knows she freezes up around unfamiliar men, the old fear still holding on. At the thought, a phantom touch seems to graze Ham Aryam's cheek, causing a soft blush to spread across her face. Back in the present, Byomyeong runs a hand through his hair in frustration, his own face flushed with regret. "I should have been more careful," he thinks, questioning if he's an idiot. Baek Byomyeong admits to himself that when Ham Aryam is in front of him, his self-control vanishes. The impulse to hold her, to close the distance between them, is overwhelming. His mind flashes with a vision of her, completely unguarded and open only to him. This isn't a fleeting urge, it's a deep, consuming need to promise her forever. He clenches his fist, the thought echoing with desperate certainty. He wants to marry her. For 12 years, he's harbored this feeling, and now it threatens to break free. In the locker room, a teammate approaches Baek Byomyeong, referencing the viral news about his recent fan meeting and the hug he shared with announcer Choi Hae-on. Other players quickly gather, their voices a low buzz of gossip as they ask what she's like in person. One presses for details about her appearance, but Byomyeong's face hardens. He turns away sharply, a vein pulsing on his neck. "Dunno," he mutters. Unfazed, the teammate asks for an inappropriate detail. Disgust flashes in Byomyeong's eyes as he whips off his shirt and throws it at the man's face. Baek Byomyeong's voice cuts through the locker room, laced with contempt. "Why are you judging someone else's body?" he snaps, telling the teammate his own is a mess and to go do weights instead. The crude talk is uncomfortably familiar, pulling him back in time. A memory surfaces of a high school hallway. Classmates debate who the prettiest girl is, and one boy shyly admits he thinks Ham Aryam is pretty. A younger Baek Byomyeong stands by the lockers, listening silently. The memory sours as he recalls another student asking an inappropriate question about her. In a high school classroom, Baek Byomyeong stands just out of sight, listening to a classmate's crude story. The boy animatedly tells his friends about a time a female student left gym class feeling unwell. He brags about following her and catching her changing in the unlocked classroom, making a vulgar remark about her figure. He then suggests they all go after her together next time. The classroom door suddenly rattles open, and Baek Byomyeong stands there, his expression hard. The gossiping students freeze, startled. Without a word, Baek Byomyeong clenches his fist, knuckles white with rage. A sharp cry of pain rings out. Baek Byomyeong remembers the aftermath of that day, how after Ham Aryam saw him fight, she didn't speak to him for half a year. The memory fuels the quiet anger that makes steam rise from his skin as he walks away from his teammate in the gym. Later, alone in his apartment, a different kind of heat rushes to his face. He replays the image of Aryam, her eyes wide with shock as she pulls her sweater down. He groans, smacking his own head. "Idiot," he mutters, cursing himself for blurting out that he wanted to be close with her. They were slowly getting closer, and now he's certain he's ruined everything by frightening her away. Baek Byomyeong stands in the gym, his back muscles tense as he clenches his fist. He never wanted to see her scared, and now he doesn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Ham Aryam sits in a cafe with a friend, who leans in with wide, concerned eyes. Her friend asks what could have happened to make the timid Aryam demand they meet immediately, fearing she'd been scammed. Aryam blushes, nervously touching her fingers together. She tentatively brings up her childhood friend, the soccer player. "I remember," her friend says. "But you never told me who." Ariam looks down, quietly admitting, somehow, I ended up dating him. Her friend leans forward, demanding to know who confessed. A warm blush creeps up Ariam's cheeks as she quietly admits, he did. She deflects the insistent questions about his name, but the image of online articles detailing Baek Byomyang's public controversies flashes in her mind. How can she explain the man behind the headlines? Deciding it's better for her friend to form her own opinion, she makes a suggestion. Just see him next time with me. Her friend's excitement is immediate, but Ariam's expression grows serious. She has something important to ask. Leaning in, her friend's eyes sparkle with curiosity. How much into it, she asks. Did you kiss on the first day? A warm blush spreads across Ariam's face as her friend worries he might be too forward. Ariam quickly shakes her head, insisting he's always respectful and never pushes her. Her friend smirks, seeing right through the deflection. So what's the issue? She presses. With her cheeks burning, Ariam finally confesses the true source of her panic. He says he wants to be close with me. The admission hangs in the air as her friend chokes on her drink. Her friend's eyes narrow with suspicion. Is he a player? She asks, concerned. A bright blush floods Ariam's cheeks as she quickly shakes her head, explaining that he told her she was his very first. Her friend leans back, a smirk on her face. To her, this just means he must care so deeply that he's losing control. She advises Ariam to just follow her heart and find out if their physical connection is strong now, rather than regret it later. Ariam stammers, her face burning, worried it's too fast and could ruin their precious friendship. Ariam parts ways with her friend after a seemingly good counseling session. As she walks away, however, she admits to herself that she couldn't bring up the most important topic. Her mind spins, conjuring a frustrating image, a calm, towering Baek Byomyang creating distance while a tiny version of herself clings to him, begging him to stay. She clenches her fist, a strained smile on her face. If she says anything, it will make her look like the desperate one. The thought makes her panic. How is she supposed to say something like that all of a sudden? Riding the bus, Ariam's mind races with a single, frustrating question. Does Baek Byomyang want her, or not? She drops into a seat, crossing her arms tightly as she fumes. What is it that he doesn't like about her? The doubt spirals into a darker fear, that he's sick of her and wants to take a step back, to return to their simple friendship and avoid ruining 23 years of history. Her anxiety quickly curdles into anger. Standing in an elevator, she furiously jabs the button. She isn't some pet to be ordered around. He's seriously testing her patience. The lock on Baek Byomyang's door clicks open. Still fuming, Ariam steps inside, announcing her return into the silent apartment. It's strangely quiet. She rounds the corner and stops dead. Baek Byomyang stands before her, shirtless, clutching a towel to his chest. Her mind short-circuits. He looks surprised, but his expression quickly hardens. A single drop of sweat rolls down his skin. He looks down at her, his voice low and firm, telling her he needs rest. If she has something to say, she should say it fast and go home. Ariam meets Baek Byomyang's impatient glare. When he tells her to leave if she has nothing to say, she retorts that this is house. Confusion flickers across his face as he repeats his own address, Starlight Apartments, Unit 505. The realization crashes over her. She's in the wrong apartment. Her cheeks flush hot with embarrassment as her eyes dart around the unfamiliar space. Ah, crap, she blurts out before bolting from the room. Baek Byomyang shouts after her, telling her to come home earlier. Safe in her bed, Ariam buries her face in her blanket, completely mortified. A memory takes Ariam back to her college days, studying late in the library. Her phone buzzes, lighting up with a message from Baek Byomyang. Just seeing his name makes her heart thump in her chest. He asks if she'll be home early tonight. She types back a vague reply, pouting when he doesn't respond right away. A familiar anxiety washes over her, wondering why his bluntness always affects her so much. Then, another message pops up. He offers to pick her up if she's late, and a warm blush spreads across her cheeks. Ariam sends the text, telling Baek Byomyang to come pick her up, then immediately wonders if she's being too demanding. When he arrives, she slides into the passenger seat, apologizing for the traffic. He glances at her, his voice low as he observes, "You put on makeup." A blush rises on her cheeks. She remembers scrambling to her makeup pouch the moment he agreed, her heart thumping in her chest with anticipation. But Baek Byomyang just tells her she must be tired and should get some sleep. Ariam stares, completely bewildered. That's it. The quiet hum of the engine fills the car as Ham Ariam asks what's on his mind. Baek Byomyong turns to her, his gaze steady and serious. "A kiss," he says softly. "Just one." Her breath catches, and a deep blush spreads across her cheeks as her heart begins to pound. Why does a simple thing like this make her race? He gently asks if she doesn't want to, and she quickly tells him to go ahead. A quiet relief floods her. He doesn't mind her closeness. She closes her eyes, and he leans in, placing a warm connection against her cheek. A soft warmth spreads across Ham Ariam's cheek, her heart fluttering in the quiet car. But the gentle moment is broken by a sudden. Her eyes fly open as Baek Byomyong pulls back, his phone held up. He just took a picture of her. "Huh," she murmurs, confused. Outside the car, Baek Byomyong touches his own warm neck, his mind racing. Is this it? Did he just ruin everything? Flustered, he avoids her gaze and tells her to come out since it's cold. Later, in her apartment, Ariam is on the phone. "I suddenly had something I wanted to ask," she explains, her expression serious. Pacing in her room, Ham Ariam holds the phone to her ear, seeking advice. She asks her friend what it means if a man suggests they spend the night together, only to take it back the next day. The immediate theory from her friend is that he's playing hard to get. The idea stuns Ariam. Baek Byomyong, playing games with? It makes no sense. The voice on the phone then offers another possibility. Maybe he was surprised by his own forwardness, especially if she froze up. Ham Ariam stops, her eyes wide. It's as if her friend has read her mind. The voice on the phone explains that men are surprisingly delicate. The realization hits Ham Ariam, and she sinks onto her bed, covering her face in embarrassment. Of course she froze up. Baek Byomyong is like a big tiger with outbreaks. How could she not be scared? Her friend's voice cuts straight to the point, asking if she wants to be close with him. A deep blush warms Ariam's cheeks as she softly admits, "I think I do." The advice is simple. Stop overthinking and just push forward. "How?" she asks, completely lost. The noisy pub is filled with the boisterous chatter of a large group gathering. Ham Ariam sits at a table laden with food and drinks, looking deeply annoyed. This was supposed to be about job hunting tips, but it's just another drinking session. Regret washes over her. "I shouldn't have come," she thinks to herself. Lifting her mug, she chugs the beer in one go, the frustration bubbling inside her. She knows exactly who to blame. If Baek Byomyong hadn't been so persistent, she wouldn't be here. She remembers him on the phone, mentioning a gathering organized by Sunbae Taeju, with Sunbae Wonyoung attending, before he casually told her he was coming over for breakfast. As Ham Ariam confirms her plans over the phone, Baek Byomyong's light-hearted expression shifts. He immediately wants to know who she's meeting. When she mentions college friends and seniors, his focus sharpens, pressing her about which Sunbae it is. Annoyed by the interrogation, she demands to know why he's prying. "Because I'm your boyfriend," he declares, a sudden heat filling the space between them. Ariam challenges his right to know her private life, but he insists that if a male senior is involved, he should know. His face flushes as he calls out her excuses, leaving him flustered and her fuming. Ham Ariam stares blankly, her mind a dizzying spiral. Do I really have to be the one to make him fall for me? She wonders, completely overwhelmed by the idea. A friend leans forward, breaking her out of the trance. "Ariam, what are you thinking about so deeply?" he asks. She flushes, forcing a smile and insisting it's nothing, even as the words "how to win over Baek Byomyong" scream in her head. Another friend interrupts, complimenting Sunbae Wonyoung for not having changed in 2 years, prompting a joke that their friend Taeju must have done all the aging instead. A thought clicks for Ham Ariam as she observes the other women at the pub, all dressed so nicely. "Ow," she thinks, "I totally missed the hint." They all had another motive. At their table, a friend tells her she looks even more radiant than before. He brings up her old school days, reminding her she was so popular that Wonyoung had to work hard just for a chance to talk to her. Wonyoung flushes, telling his friend not to say strange things. "It was a joke," the friend laughs, then adds teasingly, "You were also in love with Ham Ariam?" The teasing continues as a friend jokes that Ham Ariam is so clumsy she'll be single forever. Another friend puts Wonyoung on the spot, suggesting he and Ariam should start dating. The table erupts into a chorus of cheers, everyone shouting that they would make a perfect couple. The mounting pressure brings a wave of heat to Ariam's face. Cornered and desperate, she blurts out, "Besides, I have a boyfriend." A stunned silence instantly falls over the group. They stare in disbelief, one friend finally stammering, "Lies, you're lying, right?" The skeptical faces of her friends close in on Ham Arium as she desperately insists she has a boyfriend. They laugh, pointing out that she spends all her time at the library. The air grows hot with their teasing until her phone chimes, a sudden lifeline. It's a message from Baek Byomyong. He's near her university. Her heart hammers against her ribs as he asks for the location, telling her he's on his way. Seizing the opportunity, Arium abruptly stands, announcing her friend has arrived. She quickly escapes, leaving her stunned friends behind. The cool night air follows Ham Arium into the warmth of Baek Byomyong's car. He notices her shiver and asks if she's cold, his voice soft as he turns up the heat. As they drive through the quiet city, he asks how much she had to drink. She quietly admits to 2 beers before asking about his training. His hand finds hers, fingers lacing together as he answers, "Same as always." A jolt of warmth rushes through her. His gaze then flickers to her lips, asking if she changed her lipstick. The quiet observation makes her heart pound. Baek Byomyong leans closer, his gaze intense. He asks if she put on the new lipstick to show someone, maybe her upperclassmen. A deep blush spreads across Ham Arium's cheeks. She blurts out that there's no one else but him, then immediately regrets her candidness. The car screeches to a sudden stop. He turns to her, his own ears turning red, and asks softly if she really got pretty just for him. The air grows thick and warm. Unbuckling his seatbelt, he asks, "Can I look at you up close?" He moves nearer, his voice a low whisper. "Can I touch your lips?" His fingers gently graze her chin as she looks into his eyes and quietly agrees. Baek Byomyong's thumb gently traces Ham Arium's lip before he closes the remaining space between them. The world seems to fall away as their lips meet, a soft, warm connection that deepens in the stillness of the car. Suddenly, he jolts back, his eyes wide with surprise. He quickly apologizes, "Sorry, I did it without your permission." Arium can only stare, confused by his sudden retreat. A cold dread washes over her as his words register. "No way," she thinks, her face paling in panic. "Is he going to reject me again?" Baek Byomyong calls after Ham Arium, his voice laced with concern, asking if she's upset. She storms ahead, her back to him, denying it through gritted teeth. When he asks where she's going, she announces she's buying alcohol and ducks into a nearby convenience store. A pile of cans and bottles clatter onto the counter. Byomyong watches her, unsettled. With a faint blush, Arium turns and tells him, "Go and grab some protection." He freezes, completely stunned. "What?" He stammers, his eyes wide with disbelief as she looks away. As they walk along the street, Baek Byomyong stops and turns to Ham Arium with an exasperated look. "Seriously, you?" he asks. Confused, she glances back, asking what he means. He hesitates, rubbing the back of his neck as a blush creeps up his skin. "That," he mumbles, before finally getting the words out. "The protection." The word hangs in the air between them. Ham Arium's face immediately flushes a deep crimson. She gives a tiny, stiff nod, completely flustered. Seeing her reaction, he asks, "What? You don't want it?" Ham Arium's voice is barely a whisper, her face still bright red. "No, I do. I want it." Later, inside Baek Byomyong's apartment, the air is thick with unspoken words. He confirms she put the drinks in the fridge and casually mentions that his parents are staying at his sister's house. They are alone. He walks to the pantry and returns with an armful of snacks. A faint blush dusts Ham Arium's cheeks as she asks if he wants more. "This is enough," he says softly, a small smile touching his lips as he looks down. She remembered all his favorites. Baek Byomyong watches Ham Arium enjoying the snacks and warns her not to drink too much, worried she'll forget everything again. A playful smile touches her lips as she leans close, gently pinching his cheeks. "You're the one who shouldn't lose your memory," she teases, calling him a shy cat. He stares back, completely flustered by the unexpected nickname. She presses him, asking if he dislikes it. Baek Byomyong turns away, his ears blushing a deep red as he admits he actually likes it. Her expression shifts, becoming serious. Reaching out, her fingertips gently brush against his warm ear. "I'm going to remember everything," she promises, her gaze unwavering. "Why wouldn't I remember?" Ham Arium asks, a playful confidence in her voice. She leans in and surprises Baek Byomyong with a quick, soft kiss, leaving him stunned and blushing. She pulls back, a small smile on her face. "How cute," she observes. Complaining that he's too tall, she stands on her toes and places her hands on his chest, playfully teasing him about his athletic build. He stammers, completely flustered, insisting it's not true. Ham Ariam leans in again, her lips brushing against his ear. "This is your most handsome place, Baek Byomyeong," she whispers, her breath warm. "Of your whole body, your ears are the most honest." Ham Ariam's hands slide around Baek Byomyeong's neck, his own resting on the small of her back. "I want to ask you something," she murmurs, her expression turning serious. Lost in the moment, he tells her to ask anything. Her question cuts through the warmth. "What happens if we break up?" His grip tightens instinctively. "You can't break up with me." When she presses again, he cuts her off with 2 words. "That doesn't exist." In one fluid motion, he stands, lifting her effortlessly, and crosses the room to gently place her down. He lays Ham Ariam on the bed, her body sinking into the soft sheets. Her eyes widen in surprise as he draws her closer, their closeness intensifying with a soft flick of his wrist. Leaning over her, Baek Byomyeong whispers her name, his breath warm against her skin. A shiver runs through her as their embrace deepens. "I like it," he murmurs, his voice thick with emotion. "Ham Ariam, I like you a lot." Her voice drops, low and serious. "If you ever cheat," she warns, "I'll be the one to end you." He simply agrees. "Yeah." A dull ache throbs in Ham Ariam's head as she wakes, her body feeling heavy and unresponsive. As she lies there, a single thought brings a strange sense of clarity. Nothing actually happened that night. The sound of the door opening pulls her from her thoughts. Baek Byomyeong walks in carrying a tray. "You're awake?" he asks gently, his expression concerned. He questions how her body feels, and she glares back, wondering if she looks okay to him. He places the tray on the nightstand, revealing a steaming bowl of porridge, telling her he made it for her. Ham Ariam shifts in bed, a blush creeping on her cheeks as she realizes Baek Byomyeong even changed the sheets while she slept. He leans over, his hand gently cupping her chin as he tells her to rest while he heads to work out, promising to hurry back. She moves to sit up, but a sharp ache suddenly shoots through her lower back, making her cry out. His eyes widen in panic. "Does it hurt a lot? Should we go to the hospital?" he asks frantically. Mortified, Ariam dismisses his concern, insisting she just pulled a muscle. Baek Byomyeong tells Ham Ariam to lie face down, offering to massage the sore muscle for her. His hands press onto her lower back, and she flinches at the sudden pressure, asking him to be gentler. He immediately softens his touch, and a wave of relief washes over her. She marvels at how effective an athlete's hands can be. The warmth spreads through her as the pain eases. She turns her head, a blush coloring her cheeks, and asks if he really has time for this, reminding him of his workout. He simply agrees, then startles her by flopping down onto the bed beside her. Baek Byomyeong collapses onto the bed beside her, dramatically declaring he doesn't want to go. He peeks an eye open, a playful glint in his gaze as he asks if he should pretend he's sick, too. How could he possibly leave while she's in pain? A blush warms Ham Ariam's face. She gently presses a hand to his shoulder, reminding him of his training camp, but he just captures her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. The air grows thick and warm. He leans closer, his voice a whisper as he asks, "Can I kiss you?" Breathless, she simply nods. The world narrows to a single point as Baek Byomyeong closes the distance, his lips gently meeting hers. Ham Ariam's eyes drift shut, her body relaxing into the embrace. He pulls back just enough to whisper, "I like you." A breathless, "Yeah," is all she can manage. He says her full name then, his voice earnest. "Ham Ariam, I really like you." Later, on the soccer field, the memory clearly lingers. Baek Byomyeong stands frozen, a goofy, lovesick grin on his face as his teammates shout in confusion. His coach yells from the sidelines, "Baek Byomyeong, get your head in the game." Still floating from their moment together, Baek Byomyeong stands dazed on the field, a lovesick grin plastered on his face as his teammates run past. An angry senior gets right in his face, demanding he snap out of it. Byomyeong bows apologetically, then suddenly pulls the startled senior into a tight hug, gushing about how handsome he looks. His teammates stare in utter disbelief, wondering if he's lost his mind. Fueled by this giddy energy, Baek Byomyeong unleashes a powerful kick, sending the ball rocketing with such force that it rips right through the net. His teammates stare, dumbfounded, as the ball rips through the net. One calls him a monster, another thinks he's completely lost his mind. Later, Baek Byomyeong pulls into a garage, a giddy blush on his cheeks as he speaks on the phone. He confirms his training camp has been moved. "Looks like we can spend the whole weekend together," he says, humming to himself. The words hang in the air as the scene cuts to Ham Ariam. She arches back with a cry, her face flushed and her body straining, caught in a moment of overwhelming surprise. A vivid, overwhelming memory races through Baek Byomyang's mind. He sees Ham Ariam, her voice echoing a plea for him to be gentle. Back in his car, a deep blush spreads across his face as he struggles to calm down, admitting he's been lost in thought all day. He slaps his cheeks, trying to regain composure. Suddenly, his dashboard lights up, a call from his agent, Jang Young-sik. Byomyang answers sharply. His agent immediately accuses him of booking another terrible schedule, but Byomyang cuts him off with a simple, firm no, leaving the other man stunned. Baek Byomyang's voice is sharp as he cuts off his agent on the phone. He refuses an interview about a transfer, declaring firmly that he isn't going to England and that the subject is closed. As his agent's protests fade, Byomyang's mind drifts. He remembers being overseas, scrolling through social media, only to see a picture of Ham Ariam smiling happily next to her college senior. A jolt of possessiveness runs through him. He couldn't lose his place by her side. England can wait. With renewed conviction, he thinks, the spot next to Ham Ariam is mine. Baek Byomyang walks quietly into the apartment, his eyes landing on Ham Ariam sleeping on the couch. A profound sense of belonging settles over him as he watches her. He leans down, gently pulling her into a warm embrace. She stirs, blinking awake in his arms. "When did you get here?" she asks, her voice thick with sleep. "Wasn't training tough?" A blush warms his cheeks as he quietly tells her no, keeping his real thoughts a secret. Ham Ariam snuggles closer, murmuring that she's hungry. He holds her tight, promising to cook for her. Baek Byomyang pulls Ham Ariam tight against him on the sofa, his gaze unwavering. "I told you I'm hungry," he says, his voice low as he warns her not to ignore him. He leans in closer, leaving no room for escape. "Then give me a kiss." A blush spreads across Ariam's face as she closes her eyes and obliges. Their lips meet in a soft touch. "They are happy now?" she asks, pulling back slightly. But instead of stopping, he surges forward, peppering her face with more affection. Surprised, Ariam bursts into bright, unrestrained laughter. The lighthearted moment shifts. Ham Ariam looks up at him and explains that she made dinner, worried it's gone cold since he was so late. Baek Byomyang's playful expression vanishes, replaced by wide-eyed shock. A deep blush spreads across his cheeks and neck. Overwhelmed by her simple gesture of care, his grip tightens. He pulls her flush against him, burying his hot face in the crook of her neck. His heart thunders in his chest as he chides himself for his earlier intentions, completely disarmed by her unexpected thoughtfulness. The air grows thick with heat. Baek Byomyang's grip tightens, his warm face remaining buried in the crook of Ham Ariam's neck. A deep blush spreads across his skin as his hands slide beneath the fabric of her shirt, resting on her waist. Ham Ariam trembles under his touch. "Aren't you hungry?" she asks, her voice barely a whisper. But her words don't seem to reach him. His mind is a storm of frantic thoughts, questioning how he could ever leave someone so precious. He pulls her closer, completely deaf to her repeated questions about dinner. Without warning, Baek Byomyang's hands slide under Ham Ariam's top, lifting the fabric completely. She lets out a startled cry, her cheeks flushing a deep red. She stammers, pleading to eat first, but he insists on seeing her just once, admitting he's thought about it all day. Her mind races, calling him a deviant, but her protests fade. Unfamiliar with relationships, she offers little resistance to his forward request. After a moment of intense silence, he leans in close, placing a soft, surprising kiss on her cheek. "Hey, Baek Byomyang," she gasps, stunned. Baek Byomyang's voice is low and intense, admitting he could never let anyone else have her. Flushed and overwhelmed, Ham Ariam asks why he's so obsessed. He gazes at her, a soft blush on his own cheeks, and tells her it's simply because she is unbearably pretty. The confession hangs in the air for a moment before he leans in, capturing her lips in a tender kiss. As the connection deepens, his hands start to hold her closer. "You're doing it too fast," she whispers. He immediately pulls back, apologizing for his rush. A wave of heat rushes through Baek Byomyang as he pulls his dark hoodie over his head, revealing his muscular frame. His breath catches, his cheeks flushed with an intense desire he can no longer hide. Sunlight streams into the apartment. Ham Ariam's eyes snap open. Disoriented, she slowly sits up in her bed, her mind hazy and confused. She realizes she's in her own room, and figures Baek Byomyong must have carried her home. As she turns, she freezes. Baek Byomyong is right there, peering over the side of the mattress with a calm expression. "You're up?" he asks. Aryam jolts back, her face flushing a deep red. Her heart pounds as she stammers, demanding to know why he is there. Baek Byomyong calmly explains that her dad left for work and she needs to eat. Ignoring his practical words, a flustered Ham Aryam demands to know how long he has been watching her sleep. "Since an hour ago," he teases from the floor. Horrified, she covers her face. He stands and closes the distance between them, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. He admits he was just kidding, explaining that he'd stepped out briefly since she was so deeply asleep. He pulls her forward, wrapping her in a firm embrace. "Who told you to watch?" she mutters into his chest. His voice is a low murmur against her hair, asking how he could possibly look away from something so beautiful. Ham Aryam's face burns with heat as she looks up at him, her heart hammering. A faint blush colors Baek Byomyong's own cheeks as he leans in closer, changing the subject. "So, where should we go today?" Confused, Aryam asks if they have plans. He looks utterly shocked. "Aren't we going on a date?" he demands. He insists their last outing doesn't count because she fainted, arguing they need a one. Baek Byomyong releases her, gently directing her to get ready while he prepares the table. In the bathroom, Ham Aryam's mind whirls around his absurd demand, a goodbye kiss as proof of a date. The logic is so ridiculous, yet it makes a strange kind of sense that heats her cheeks. She emerges to find a full meal waiting. "Am I eating alone?" she asks, surprised. He claims he already ate with her father, but she eyes him suspiciously. "Then why are you holding chopsticks too?" she questions, catching him poised to eat with her. Caught in his lie, Baek Byomyong doesn't miss a beat. He smoothly picks up a side dish with his chopsticks and extends it toward Ham Aryam, inviting her to eat with a soft "ah." Before she can protest, he places the food in her mouth, praising her for eating so well. Aryam's cheeks puff out in indignant surprise. She's been completely outmaneuvered. He then playfully asks what she wants next. Under the table, her toes curl in frustration. She can only let this slide, she thinks, because he looks so cute doing it. As Ham Aryam tries to eat, Baek Byomyong watches her intently. Under the table, his socked foot presses against her calf. He asks quietly if she knows how sensitive that spot is. Her face burns with heat. In a flash of defiance, she pinches his ankle hard, making him yelp. He tells her nicely to take his sock off. "No," she shoots back. He warns her not to pinch him again. Suddenly, the rough texture of the sock is gone, replaced by the warmth of his bare foot sliding up her leg. A gasp catches in her throat. She freezes, her entire body rigid with shock, thinking, "You perverted tiger." Baek Byomyong swallows hard, a faint blush creeping up his neck. Before he can react, Ham Aryam grabs his bare foot under the table and begins to tickle him. He erupts in laughter, squirming in his chair and begging her to stop. She lectures him playfully, reminding him that one shouldn't be bothered during mealtime. The playful atmosphere shatters when his expression turns serious. "Sit still," he says, his voice suddenly low and intense. "Then I'll give you a kiss." Ham Aryam freezes, her hands dropping his foot. She stares at him, utterly stunned into silence. Baek Byomyong asks if she has somewhere else in mind. Ham Aryam admits she's tired and would rather stay home. His expression falls, a subtle disappointment that she finds impossible to refuse. Her resolve crumbles, and she agrees to go out. Later, as she stands in her own doorway, he asks if she's ready. Confused, she tells him she hasn't even changed yet. Instead of answering, Baek Byomyong takes her hand, his grip firm and warm. "What? Where are we going?" she asks. "Follow me," he says, leading her the few steps to his own front door. "Don't tell me we're going to your house." Ham Aryam asks, reminding him that he wanted to go on a date outside. Baek Byomyong looks away, a soft blush warming his cheeks. He admits he got a little too excited and didn't consider her stamina. In a swift motion, he lifts her completely off her feet. "Don't get cocky," he murmurs, carrying her inside. He holds her close, apologizing for not noticing her fatigue sooner. Flustered but resolute, she looks up at him, insisting she can handle a normal date. Baek Byomyong's cheeks flush as he reminds her that she collapsed from exhaustion just the night before. He looks away, embarrassed, and murmurs an apology, promising to go easy on her next time. His words ignite a spark in Ham Aryam. "Next time," she retorts, grabbing his arm. "You think there'll be a next time for you?" Without a word, he spins and pulls her into an overwhelmingly tight hug. his arms locking around her. Stunned and unable to move, she squeezes her eyes shut and demands he start the date. Baek Byomyong holds her close, sighing her name. You're really too much. The living room is surprisingly dim, the curtains drawn in the middle of the day. A spread of wine and snacks covers the coffee table, leaving Ham Aryam stunned. Baek Byomyong, already settled on the sofa, reveals his plan. They're watching a movie. He has her nestled between his legs, his larger frame a warm presence behind her. He reassures her that he won't say anything if she falls asleep, softly adding, "Don't overdo it." Just then, his arm wraps firmly around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. She freezes, her breath catching. A deep blush spreads across Ham Aryam's cheeks, her heart thumping against her ribs. Baek Byomyong's breath is warm against her neck as he murmurs, asking why everything she does is so cute. She realizes it's becoming nearly impossible to refuse his requests. As the movie plays, she gets caught up in a scene and bursts into laughter, teasingly calling him sneaky. But soon, a poignant moment on screen makes her expression change. Her laughter catches in her throat, and tears well in her eyes. Byomyong turns, his gaze soft with concern, and asks why she cries every time this scene comes on. Ham Aryam explains that the movie makes her sad because everyone on screen looks so happy, and the father's love for his son is so heartfelt. As the credits roll, the mood in the dark room shifts. She turns to Baek Byomyong, her voice soft, asking if he could travel back in time, where he would go. His answer is immediate and unexpected. When I was in first grade. The somber tone in his voice catches her off guard. He deflects when she asks why. Sensing a hidden sadness, Aryam leans closer, asking if there's something he wants to undo. A faint blush dusts Baek Byomyong's cheeks as he quietly answers, "No." Before Ham Aryam can react, he pulls her onto his lap. Startled, she looks at him as he leans close, whispering that he just wants to see the small, cute version of her from their childhood. Her face flushes a deep red. "Pervert," she mutters. He closes the space between them, his touch sending a jolt through her as his hand slowly moves up her side. "Wait," she stammers, pushing against him. "Not today. I really can't." He pauses, his breath warm as he promises, "I won't." The heat between them is interrupted by the persistent buzz of a phone. Ham Aryam, flushed and breathless in Baek Byomyong's arms, points out the sound. "You're not going to answer it?" she asks, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm ignoring it," he murmurs, his gaze unwavering as he leans in again. He gently presses her back onto the sofa, the intimate moment deepening as their limbs tangle. Overwhelmed by his closeness, Aryam asks who is calling. He sighs, finally giving in. It's Young-sik. Her eyes widen in surprise. The agent manager? With her cheeks still warm from their closeness, Ham Aryam asks why he's avoiding the call, insisting it might be urgent. Baek Byomyong reluctantly grabs the phone, sighing in frustration before answering. A panicked voice erupts from the speaker, pleading for help. "My schedule got a little messed up," Baek Byomyong says into the phone, his tone serious. Sensing she should give them privacy, Aryam begins to stand up. Before she can take a step, his hand darts out, his fingers curling around the hem of her shirt, stopping her cold. Baek Byomyong pulls Ham Aryam back down, settling her firmly onto his lap as he listens to his agent's frantic explanation. There's a last-minute press conference tomorrow, followed by a flight and an interview in Japan. Annoyance flashes across Byomyong's face, but he pulls Aryam closer, his arm wrapping securely around her waist. He tells his manager to calm down as his fingers find hers, intertwining them on her thigh. Hearing Young-sik offer any wish in repayment, Aryam looks up, reminding him that if he breaks his word, she'll cancel their contract. Baek Byomyong agrees to the urgent schedule through gritted teeth before abruptly ending the call. He turns his full attention back to Ham Aryam, who is still settled on his lap. His expression softens as he apologizes, explaining that the sudden interview will make him busy tomorrow. Aryam tells him not to worry, understanding that it's just work. Still looking disappointed, Byomyong leans in close, the space between them filled with unspoken warmth. He promises they will have real fun next time. A blush creeps onto Aryam's cheeks as she gently encourages him to work hard. The warmth between them deepens as Baek Byomyong leans in, his lips brushing softly against Ham Aryam's cheek. The tender moment shatters, shifting to a cold, snowy day outside a large building. A frantic crowd of reporters swarms the entrance, their cameras flashing as they ask when Byomyong will arrive. Standing at a distance, Ariam pulls her hoodie tight, unnerved by the commotion. She tries calling him, wondering why he isn't answering. Her eyes suddenly widen in recognition as she spots a reporter who has visited Byomyang's home before. The reporter Ham Ariam recognizes fields questions from another journalist, lying that she and Baek Byomyang were once close. The falsehood hangs in the cold air, making Ariam shrink away. Deciding to find a less crowded entrance, she pulls her hood tight and turns to leave. Suddenly, a hand snags her hood, yanking it back. Her breath hitches. Before she can react, a familiar voice whispers, "Sorry, it's me." It's Baek Byomyang, disguised in a cap and mask. His intense gaze meets hers, and he brings a finger to his lips, hushing her. He quietly explains that the area is swarming with reporters. And that wraps up this part. If you watch till the end, you're a legend, and I truly appreciate you. These videos take late nights, focus, and passion to create, so knowing you're here makes it all worth it. If you enjoyed the ride, love the drama, or just live for epic manhwa like I do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell because the next dark twist, it's coming faster than you think.